come and do a hospital. That is not the work of the member. Now that we have devolution in this country, these resources should go to those devolved units.
You have to have strong, independent institutions. And I mean, you have to have police who has the right to take the biggest town in the country and question, why did you do this and that, and send them to court if necessary.
Joel Nkericho, good morning.
Salama sana Eric, habari ya asubuhi.
Salama kabisa. Mbunge wako ni nani?
Anaitwa Seriousness Martin, hapa ni Nairobi.
Seriousness Martin, aina moja.
Yes. Sasa ile juma namwambia yeye nini? Amalize aende. Asante sana.
That's it.
The Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation.
This is The Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Okoh, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latiff, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down. This is The Situation Room, the only way to start
So
your
let's
day.
see, how are the roads looking like? Something is happening on the roads, and that is that there's traffic already. However, it's moving, and not moving badly, because there are no major incidents to report about. We can see it starting to build up on Lolongo heading towards town, on Langata Road at Timol. It's starting to build up. But let's see how it will be looking like in about half an hour, okay? Yes, that's what we shall be doing. Hey, welcome to Kenya's biggest conversation on this 17th day of November 2021. This is the Situation Room on SpiceFM. There was an issue, a bit of a confusion there. The traffic bed playing for a bit and then all this and the other. We apologize for that. City.
Yes.
How are you?
Fine, thank you, sir.
What happened to the news? I mean, no sooner had Dennis started reading the news than he had finished.
There's something that happens to this time clock on certain days, and I'm beginning to suspect it's Wednesday. Somehow
It's a Wednesday thing.
It's a Wednesday thing. There's a speed dial. Somehow, 1 minute becomes 30 seconds.
Surely.
Yes, no sooner have you.
There we are,
Chatting away.
Chatting
it is half
lighting
past.
ourselves up.
And discussing what this and the other, and then suddenly you're being told it is. However, time waits for no man. I think it is us who now needs to rewind our clock so that it mirrors the very clock that this particular studio has.
We need to adjust accordingly.
Yep, it is us who need to adjust.
Okay. That we shall do. If that is what we need to do, that we shall do. Very good morning to you. Welcome to Kenya's biggest conversation this lovely Wednesday. We are glad that you were able to join us this morning from wherever you tuned in around the world, whether you're in Kenya or outside the country. Kenya's biggest conversation begins. So we'll be looking at several things that have happened. Number one, the unfortunate attacks in Uganda yesterday in Kampala. Several blasts, and there's a message that was released by the President, Eric Latiff, and saying what they know so far. We'll be looking at that and what they've said. We'll see if we can get to speak to somebody in Kampala to tell us what's happening now in the country. Then also, we'll be discussing the issue of these terrorists who have allegedly escaped from a maximum security prison. We talked about this a bit yesterday, and now there's more details today from what our journalists have been able to gather from the facility and from security experts. We'll be discussing this as well. And then we'll talk to somebody who is a real expert on climate matters. And this is the governor of Vihiga County, Wilbur Otichilo. He'll be joining us at 8 o'clock to talk about what? To talk about impact of climate change on the counties in the country. Dr. Wilbur Otichilo, by the way, is a man who has, before he joined politics as an MP and then became a governor, he's a man who's worked in very many fields in the area of just looking at our climate and climate change and understanding climate issues. And so he'll be here to give us his insights. He was in Glasgow attending the COP26 conversations. So he'll be giving us that platform, the conversations of what they discussed in Glasgow, what was agreed in Glasgow, what Kenya needs to do, how we can basically cushion ourselves from what we are seeing and what is definitely going to continue happening in the country. Let's begin this conversation with COVID-19 and look at the numbers. We know very well that the Ministry of Health keeps releasing the information on a daily basis. So I'm just going to go to the information that they shared yesterday. Let's start with the COVID-19 tests. Out of a sample size of 3,800 tests, 75 were confirmed positive with a 2% positivity rate. 3 people were recorded as having recovered yesterday, and 3 people were recorded to have died yesterday. Remember, these are cumulative; these are deaths that have occurred within the last couple of weeks. So total so far, we have 5,322 people who have died, 247,000 total recoveries, and 254,000 total confirmed cases in the country. With regards to vaccinations, we still have the 9.7 million vaccines received in the country, and 6 million of them have already been dispensed. Some 2.17 million people have received the second dose. Some 3.9 million people have received their first dose. The proportion of adults who are fully vaccinated so far is 8%. Hoping to get to the 10%. It's actually going pretty well. 8% of the adult population has so far been vaccinated. Not necessarily fully, but just they have received a shot in the arm, literally speaking. How close are we to hitting the 10 million mark? We are about 4 million or 3.9 million short of hitting the 10 million mark by the end of this year. And we have about 3 million doses of the vaccine that are still in vials. They haven't been dispensed. You see us hitting that target?
We will. I have taken the view
We
that
will.
so long as we keep vaccinating, the numbers will keep rising. What I have removed my mind and my thoughts and my energies from is this target setting, the RRI mentality, the Rapid Results Initiative, where we're saying we're going to hit 15 million. No. When we get to 10 million, we will get to 10 million. Okay?
We will get there when we get there.
When we get there, we will know because we will have gotten there. Yes, but I am not going to stress my mind. What I will stress my mind about and what I will speak about is the need for people to constantly be told where it is they can access the vaccines. That is a must.
Yes.
Constantly. And also, yes, a vaccine is a vaccine, but let's not quibble about what we have. Let's quibble about where it is that it is available and where one can get it. Yes, let's focus on that. And let's not spare any moment, any time, any energy in trying to get as many people as possible to understand that it's available and that it is at a clinic near them. Yes.
Very good point. Very good point. We are live streaming the show on SpiceFM KE, YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter. Are you online? Say hello to us. Just go to our social media pages, Facebook or Twitter, SpiceFM KE, and say hello to us. Even those on YouTube as well. We'll love hearing from you. Let's take this quick break at 16 minutes after 6. Still on the show is Eric Latiff and CT Muga. We've told Ndu it's okay. You know, you have recovered, but just take some time. Chill. Take a break, man. You've been very, very hard at work in the last couple of weeks and months. So, you know. So she's away. She'll be back next week on Monday. God willing. So, Time for this break. We'll be back shortly.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day. Spice up your life. Spice FM.
It's getting hot in here.
Oh, everybody steals. It's better a thief who brings something small back. And I say to myself, there's no better thief. A thief is a thief, period.
All those bribes, how much they are getting per year, how much inconvenience they are causing. As much as you call it a small case, it's worth it to be convicted.
The truth is, we are a tribal nation. Because if we were not tribal, and I want to go back to this, you cannot continue walking around with a mug which is clean outside and it's rotten inside.
We have become a fuliza country. We have mortgaged our country because of debt.
You've got one chef working and the assistant chef wakati anatakana koroge unga nini hayuko.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
At 18 minutes after 6, what's it like in Nairobi? It's 16 degrees Celsius in Nairobi, but we're going to have a mostly cloudy day. Temperatures rising to 26. Mombasa is going to be mostly cloudy at 32. Malindi, mostly cloudy at 31. Nyeri, cloudy day at 25. Nakuru, cloudy day at 28. Kisumu, cloudy day at 30. Eldoret, clear skies at 25. And Kakamega, mostly cloudy day at 31. Our neighbors in Uganda are going to be having a cloudy day at 29. Johannesburg, South Africa, clear skies at 30. In Dar es Salaam, Tanzania, sunny day at 32. In Lagos, Nigeria, mostly clear skies at 32. Kinshasa, a rainy day at 30. How's it going to be looking like in New York? Winter is coming. Frosty advisory has been issued in New York. Currently, it's at 7 degrees this night, but the temperatures are going to hit highs of 10 and then drop to 4. London, highs of 12, drop to 9. Paris, France, mostly cloudy day, highs of 13 and lows of 3. And Beijing, China, a sunny day, highs of 12. Temperatures are going to drop shortly this evening to 1. Good morning.
Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
Okay, it's 20 minutes after 6. This is Kenya's biggest conversation, the Situation Room. I know there are very many people who are already online this morning, and so let's see who's online. What has happened to my... Surely. Okay. Let me just fire this thing up and then I'll let you know who's online and we'll be acknowledging you shortly. City, let's see the proverb today.
Yes, we are still in the land of the coastals. Swahili proverb. Jifunze kukaa kimya, mtulivu, kisha zingatia. Sababu, sio kila kitu kinahitaji majibu.
Is that a story or a proverb?
It is a saying.
So started hadithi.
Hapo za zamani za kale.
Yes.
Oh no.
Paliondokea chanjaga.
Yes.
Kajenga nyumba kaka.
That's it. That's it. Sasa, unapojenga nyumba, ama unapoziba ufa, jifunze kukaa kimya.
Maintain shut up.
Yes, na uwe mtulivu. Uwe envelope. Okay? Kisha zingatia. Sababu sio kila kitu kinahitaji majibu. This is a saying.
Okay.
It is what Kenyans would call an obviosity.
So learn to maintain shut up.
Yes.
Learn to stay quiet.
Yes.
And observe.
Yes.
Because not everything requires a response.
No. Not everything requires a response.
You don't have to respond to everything.
No, you do not.
Hey, man. But sometimes, bwana.
Sometime.
Yeah.
There come a time.
Yeah, there come a time that you're like, no, this one. No, this one I must respond. This one I must respond.
Yeah.
Okay, so I now know who's online. And there's Amidias Mohammed White, who says, good morning, City Muga and Eric Latiff, tuned in from Nairobi, Madaraka. Peter Ongera, tuned in from Lukenya Railway Station. Maureen Jepkorir, tuned in. Good morning. Good morning to you. Robert Bogo in Mombasa. Charity Maina in Milimani Estate, Nakuru. Odero Jr., the Great Wall is tuned in. Peter Kemani is present. Phil F. Collins is present. Amos Freeman, Kimilili is tuned. The danger happens before you take caution on lean governments. Christophe Kunziato, tuned in from the east side of Nairobi. Daniel Jamhuri says, present from Kaha West. Daniel is tuned in. And Bashir Were Busia, following out of 40 Jesus Busia. Remember 40 Jesus Busia?
Mm-hmm.
Stanley Gashastan, warm morning greetings from Juja Farm, Mount Kilimambogo view. Good morning. One day we should go and see this Mount Kilimambogo view of Stanley's. Macha, of course, Bedi Asli is tuned in. And from India and the lovely shores of Goa, it's TJ Apache who says, it's a sunny day here. City reminds me of my classes. No sooner had you than. And it says, a proverb from Goa today, an orphaned calf cannot lick its own back.
Yes. That's
Thank
a lovely
you.
proverb.
That's a lovely one, eh?
Yep.
So let's take a look at the newspaper headlines. Remember, you can access the Standard e-paper from wherever you are for 20 shillings daily. Standardmedia.co.ke. You get access to a lot of good content, including free Standard Media archives. These are the oldest media archives in the country. So now, well, apart from KBC, of course. So now, in the headlines, both in the Nation and the Standard, I don't know whether the Star has the same, it's talking about these terrorists who allegedly escaped from prison in committee. The Standard says, how terror convicts escaped committee. Details emerge of how 3 fugitives plotted and executed their escape on a day suspected suicide bomber set off 2 explosions in Kampala, killing 1 and injuring 33. The hard questions. Why did it take prisons authorities more than 8 hours to establish that the terror convicts had escaped? 2. After officers learned of the prison break, why did they delay to alert the local police station? 3. How did the escapees beat 3 layers of security to scale a 10-foot wall in a compound with floodlights? So they give a chronology of events, and it starts on Sunday, okay? On the 14th, at about 6 p.m., a new team of officers arrives for the evening shift at the committee maximum prison. They conduct a routine check of all cells, and they establish that all prisoners are in their cubicles. This is 6 p.m. on Sunday. Monday, 10 a.m., prison authorities at committee notify the Magereza headquarters that there are inmates who are missing. Magereza House officials notify the DCI headquarters. This is at 10 a.m. on Monday. At 11:30 a.m. on Monday, crime scene investigators and officers from the DCI Serious Crimes Unit arrive at committee, and that's when investigations begin. At 3 p.m. on Monday, DCI now decides to tell us that the 3 have escaped, and they offer the bounty of 20 million shillings each for each escapee. 10 p.m. that night, Interior CS Fred Matiang'i and other senior security officials tour the prison on a fact-finding mission. The CS announces arrest of 7 warders. Questions. How is it that they left? In fact, the Nation even has a graphic bird's eye view of the kind of security layers that are there at the maximum security side of committee prison. It says there's a roll call that's conducted at 6:30 a.m. to 7 a.m. But it was 10 a.m. when it was discovered that these terrorists had been missing. This maximum security prison has 7 watchtowers. It has a double-wall perimeter fence, patrolled by sniffer dogs and officers on horseback at committee. But how did these guys escape? They dug a hole through the wall, and they escaped. So we are told. What's on your mind?
What's on my mind is the role of chance and how chance is also assisted by willful action. This happens at a time when across the border in neighboring Uganda, they have terrible attacks. People die. Okay? There's been an alert in this country about an imminent terror attack. Okay? It's a pattern that we have seen, we have witnessed before. There is an alert, there is a warning, and then you suddenly find that there is a terror attack in Kenya, sometimes in Tanzania, sometimes in Uganda, Kenya and Tanzania. If I go as far back as 1998, when the U.S. Embassy in Kenya, Nairobi, was bombed. Remember, Dar es Salaam suffered a similar fate.
Yeah.
Okay? Remember the stadia, the eatery where people are watching a football match in Uganda. All these terror attacks, what I am seeing is the choreography behind it. And then why must it coincide with the time when the Secretary of State from the U.S. is visiting? Now let me just throw in a curveball. Why must this also coincide with the time when Miguna is supposed to be coming back into the country? What am I saying? I am saying that when there are too many coincidences, are they really coincidences? Yes.
Is it really coincidental?
Yes. That's what's on my mind.
One, I am not sure that this alleged escape has some connection to what's happened in Uganda because of the groups that are involved. The group in Uganda is a group that has been battling the Ugandan government for years. These are remnants of the Idi Amin era, former military officers who launched attacks in Uganda and then they crossed over into eastern DRC and they've claimed responsibility for that. It's only now that this time they have associated themselves with the ISIS, Islamic State. These particular chaps committed atrocities in the country and they were affiliated to the Al-Shabaab. Those two organizations, the one in Kenya and the one in Uganda, are not known to have worked together in the past. However, there's the issue of Elgiva Buire, who was serving a prison sentence at the same maximum security prison, coming out of prison, having been released, having served his term, and then he immediately is abducted by unknown people and he hasn't been seen since.
No, he hasn't.
And then now we have these ones who are said to have disappeared. And this is happening on Sunday. The National Security Council has met and discussed security threats in the country on Friday. By the time they're meeting and the president says heightened alerts, the serious intelligence chatter that they have or information that they have is credible. If there was anything about people who are behind prison cells escaping, if the authorities do not know who took Elgiva Buire after he left Committee Maximum Security Prison and they're trying to find out who took him, then the other thing they would do is look at the other guys that Elgiva Buire left in prison. And there'd be high alert in the prisons. So for me, I sit back and I'm asking myself, really? That at the time when the National Security Council meets, and this is the President, the Inspector General of Police, the Director General of Intelligence Service, the Chief of Defense Forces, and the ministers in charge of Interior, Defense, and Foreign Affairs, they meet and they're discussing serious, credible intelligence, and they say, let us all be on alert. Some prisoners dig up some wall and they go, and it's not even discovered many hours later. I have very many question marks. Either you're telling me that our intelligence systems are failed, or you're telling me that our prison authorities are not able to really guard a maximum security facility.
I want to ask, when you have people of the caliber of who the people are referring to as terrorists, so what are they in general population? I mean, how exactly do we this is a question I'm now asking. How exactly do we segregate and do we manage our prisoners?
How are they when they're in prison?
Yes, exactly.
In this maximum security prison, are they mingling with the other maximum security prison guys?
And how secure is this maximum security? I mean, I am now asking the question of our prison system, and I'm saying, okay, we have a prison system. Is it possible for them to talk to us and tell us how it is they incarcerate their prisoners? Do they segregate them? Do they put murderers on one side? Do they put child molesters on one side? Do they put wife beaters on one side? Do they put chicken thieves on one side? How do they segregate these prisoners, and how do they determine who stays with, and what is the level of security for each of these?
This one I find quite puzzling. Okay, let me just put it. I don't believe these guys pulled off an Nah.
That, I think, is the question that one ought to raise, and that is the direction one ought to... Because there's something that must be said about our security. Our security is very capable.
Yes.
Very capable. So to give the impression that suddenly there was this huge lapse and that suddenly all the capabilities that we know them to have suddenly went awry. Nope.
There's a story. 27 minutes to 7. Let's take this quick break and take a look at traffic. We'll look at more newspaper headlines shortly.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day. Spice up your life.
Hey, it's getting hot in here. The media has greatly contributed to the moral rot that we experience in this country.
I remember a senior politician telling me, point blank, nobody steals in the field, it's stolen in the granary. So my friend, if you're going to win an election, jipange kwa granary.
I think we are suffering from Stockholm Syndrome. Our violator and abuser is also our redeemer in our mind.
The whole political class, the whole political institution is rotten. It is based on ideals that cannot progress our country forward.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
Fellow Kenyans, especially the fellow Kenyans who use Mombasa Road every day coming to work, the issue at Mlolongo is the issue at Mlolongo. The issue at SGR is the issue at SGR. It's moving though. However, when you get to the City Cabanas flyover, something happens down there. I think there's a narrowing down of lanes. Let's know if you're stuck there, because I can see there's some people who are stuck there. What exactly is happening after City Cabanas heading towards town? You'll get to South Sea and then you'll find a little bit of a snarl up there as well. Langata Road is building up right there at the southern bypass, and this is opposite the park. There's an issue, but then it moves thereafter. Mombasa Road coming towards the Lusaka Road, this is Nyayo Stadium roundabout. It's busy. Thika Road, it starts at the usual spot, and this is where Muthui Road meets with Kiambu Road, meets with the Thika Superhighway. There's a slight build up there, and it's starting to grow. On Kiambu Road, it's free-flowing. Makadara in Jogoo Road, it's moving. And then the Eastern Bypass, heading out towards Ruiru or coming towards Nairobi, and this is very busy in the areas of Mihango and Utawala. Everything else seems to be moving as it normally does. Serious issues where there are serious issues. But if you want us to talk about anything, let us know. SpiceFM KE on Twitter.
Spice FM, Malindi. Spice up your life. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself.
24 minutes to 7. What are you looking at?
94.
I'm looking at something very political. Women eyeing senator and governor seats in North Rift.
Right.
This is in the Star. Says barriers are slowly coming down and it's time to run for election, not hope for nomination. All right. More women are eyeing elective positions in North Rift, especially those interested in becoming governor and senator. So far, 8 women have expressed interest in the governor's office in different counties. In Uasin Gishu and Elgeyo Marakwet, more than 2 women want to succeed second-term county chiefs Jackson Mandago and Alex Tolgos. In Uasin Gishu, Nairobi Devolution Executive Veska Kangogo and former Eldoret South MP Peris Simam have already on the ground campaigning for the UDA ticket. Okay? And the list goes on. Now, why have I looked at this? You know, something that may appear to be a season of change, it may actually go beyond a season. It may actually be a time of revolution. Now, let me explain to you why I'm using the word revolution. When you suddenly find that the one thing that seems to be a constant is something that previously wasn't there. And the constant I'm talking about here is more and more women are coming out, putting themselves out there to the electorate and saying, here we are vying for this same seat as men are. Now, this for me is an excellent thing and it's a good thing. And it also changes the tempo, the temperature, the tenure of the politics of the country.
Yep.
Yes.
I think it's a good thing. And it goes to break down that...
monopoly?
Not monopoly, really. Perception.
Dominance? Yes.
The perception that these pastoralist communities are very patriarchal.
Yes.
It just breaks it down. If you just look back into the number of women who have held leadership positions in these communities now, that's the North Rift. Let's talk about the Ma community. Let's talk about the Kalenjin community. There are very many women that you can look back and say, these women were actually prominent women leaders from these communities. And that they've gone now and seeking elective positions. The Deputy Speaker of the Senate is a current senator for Uasin Gishu.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
A woman.
Yes.
Professor Margaret Kamar.
Yes.
She's been a member of parliament. She has been a cabinet minister.
Very well seasoned.
She is here now. She's a senator. I mean, it's not even a big thing that in 2017, when people are going to the elections to elect Margaret Kamar as their senator, not an issue.
No. It wasn't strange.
Yeah, it wasn't strange at all.
You know, remember long from the days of Chelagar Muthui, when you'd find this one lady and you look around, there's no one else.
No other.
Yes. But now, it's not that the field is getting crowded. You get more and more.
Yes.
This is a good thing. What I would consider an extremely better thing if I saw more and more young people doing this very same thing.
More and more youthful people.
Yes, definitely. Coming out and saying, we are also going to throw our hat into the ring. That would be a good thing. So the discussion about, people are holding on to. No. You vie for that very same thing that you say people are holding on to. Let's see how that battle shapes up.
Yes. But I think even if you look at the current parliament, let's not even talk about the county assemblies, because those ones are dominated by youthful people.
Yes.
The number of below 35 MCAs in the counties is...
They're very many.
Very many. In fact, they're the majority. Let's look at the National Assembly and the Senate and those below 45, say, quite a number.
They are, and I'm saying let the numbers increase. Because the sooner people get into politics in their youth, the sooner they'll understand the ropes, the sooner they'll make their mistakes, the sooner they will learn. So then they get to this ripe old age where people consider themselves to be ripe and old. They will make excellent leaders because they will have gone round this ring several times. They will know the where-to-falls of that particular terrain. Yes.
It becomes a natural thing.
Yes, it is. It is.
So kudos to them, and we wishing them all the best.
Yes.
So now there's an issue. Now that we're still talking about the politics, let's talk about the bottom-up issue. The Deputy President's bottom-up economic model has run into legal trouble. Jacob Mutinga Kioko, a businessman, is claiming the model and has filed a case over what he says is infringement on his intellectual property rights. The marketer says the bottom-up economic model is his innovation, having patented it.
Right.
Having patented it in March 2010 and getting a certificate 3 years later. In the case that he has filed at the High Court in Milimani, Mr. Kioko says the government failed to support, promote or protect his idea despite asking the Ministry of Trade, Parliament and the Attorney General to do so. His efforts to get audience with the Office of the Deputy President in 2014 over the economic plan, he says, were unsuccessful. For the last 7 years, I've been trying to get political goodwill, without which I cannot execute either a national or a global rollout of the innovation. The magnitude of impact of the innovation on society and the national economy is such that political support is essential. So now he wants the court to order and stopping the use of the term bottom-up economy as a political gimmick, slogan, or for other purposes by any other party besides the intended aim of promoting the goals of his innovation. He's arguing that his marketing project, dubbed Dichotomous Universal Growth Web Innovation, you hear what it's called? Dichotomous Universal Growth Web Innovation, was aimed at improving development and business growth. The blueprint, he adds, is intended to use public-private partnerships to stimulate economic private progress by ensuring low and middle-income earners have access to capital. So a man has basically said, as way back as March 2010, I went to the Kenya Intellectual Properties Institute. I registered this. I got a certificate 3 years later. After getting it, the new Jubilee, this is 2010, before the new constitution. New Jubilee administration comes in. He goes to see the deputy president. He says, I'd like to discuss this innovation that I have and the economic model. Never gets audience. Next thing he's seeing, 2020, the same deputy president was trying to look for bottom up. Says, this is my innovation. Now the question is it really his innovation? I mean, what exactly did he register?
What exactly is his innovation?
Yes.
Because the concept existed long before his innovation.
Yes. The concept of bottom-up is a conversation that has been happening among economists for a number of years now.
That thing has been there for a very long time. Very, very, very long time. Very, very long time. In fact, if you're talking about the model and if you're talking about the thinking behind it, the philosophy behind it, it is something that world leaders have experimented with for the longest time. Because one of the things that seasoned politicians grapple with, governments grapple with, is how do you ensure that the people who are least advantaged in your community actually get some benefit from this government? Because they have an equal share in the government. Now, that discussion puts them at the bottom. So how do you ensure that you first of all begin with them as you move up? So it's a discussion that has been there. So your question is a valid one. What exactly did he register?
What's that innovation that he registered, right?
Yeah.
And he has a certificate for. That will be the question. What else are you looking at before you take a break?
Well, my friend, there's a tragedy that occurred over the weekend, and this is something that one must mention.
Yes.
This is some deaths that occurred. It isn't just in one place. The one which caught the eye first was when members of the family of the Mvita MP died in a car crash. All right? Then, on page 8 of the Nation, there were 12 who perished in a car crash, or rather in a bus crash.
Yesterday.
Now, apparently the sad thing was that most of these people were elderly people, and it is reported that they were victims who were going to register for the Inua Jamii Cash Transfer Program. Okay?
Yeah.
Now, we have been spared these woes. Yesterday, again, there was news of matatus that had crashed and people had been injured, a few died. What am I saying? Are we saying that because the curfew has now been lifted, that we are suddenly going to be seeing an increase in accidents on our roads? Because for some time we've been spared that. We hear of the occasional crash and this, but remember that deluge where every other day you almost dread opening up the paper for fear of having to read about the number of people who have died. The need to be cautious, and we're heading towards December.
Yeah.
And that holiday season mood for many people is with us. Remember last December, not much happened, so people didn't celebrate. And celebratory mood involve people moving around. I am saddened that we are beginning to witness this problem that I thought we had laid to rest for some time.
Why are you connecting it to the lifting of the curfew? None of these accidents happened in the so-called curfew hours.
No, the lifting of the curfew changes your mood and your perception, the way you look at things. Because you then have this understanding that there's more air in the system and you can do a lot more. That's why I'm connecting it. It isn't that it happened at night or it happened at midnight. No, that's what I'm connecting. Curfew was restrictive. When you have a sense of freedom, It is the mindset you have with that sense of freedom. That's what I'm talking about.
So there's a different mindset here.
It's a different mindset. In fact, why don't you just let me expand the conversation in exactly 30 seconds? You heard me say in this very studio that I was against the lifting of this curfew because we are going to have a serious problem with the rise in COVID numbers.
Yeah.
Because even as you talk about lifting the curfew, what you've done, you have done a good thing in trying to get the economy back on its feet. But that's not the message that people get. The caution that was there with regards to keeping safe, that is also going out of the window. That really is what I'm talking about. A lot of things are going out of the window.
So the unintended message was, you're now free.
You're now free.
Do as you wish, do as you please.
Yes.
Caution be damned.
Yes. Go to a public place. Go to any public and tell me whether you see those, unless the establishment enforces those rules. Tell me if you see people enforcing those rules on their own. Tell me.
I don't see a big difference. It's 13 minutes to 7. Time for a quick short break, and then we look at other headlines.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day. Spice up your life. 102.5 Spice FM, Kisumu. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself.
It's 12 minutes to 7. We look at more stories in the papers. So, Mwenda Kananu is now officially governor of Nairobi City County. Okay? She was sworn in yesterday, and she launched a 4-point economic stimulus program to revitalize the capital's economy as she was sworn in. The former security supervisor at the Kenya Airports Authority yesterday took over reins of power at City Hall in a colorful event graced by politicians and technocrats. Judge Lilian Mutende administered the oath of office to Kananu at 10:49 a.m., ending a long search for Nairobi's substantive governor following the impeachment of Sonko last year. She would later ride the historic black Rolls-Royce, the official governor's vehicle, to her new office, where she was handed the instruments of power by herself, right after inspecting a guard of honor and signing the visitor's book. So people who were there included Nyeri Deputy Governor Karo Karogo, Gender CAS Rachel Shebesh, NMS Director General Lieutenant General Mohammed Badi, Kiani MP Kanini Kega, former Dagoretti South MP Dennis Wawero, and County Assembly Speaker Benson Mutura. Majority and minority leaders Abdi Guyo and Michael Ogada, respectively, were also present. Now, she launched a 4-point plan. She says, my tenure comes at a time when the city is reeling from the socio and economic impact of COVID-19. For this reason, during my tenure in office, I've focused on cushioning Nairobi residents and businesses from the impact of the pandemic. How, you ask? She seeks to create jobs by revitalizing the capital's 24-hour economy with a promise to launch within the next 30 days a post-COVID recovery plan with focus on greater improvements in security, local policing, lighting, and sanitation. The guy, what is it? Let me finish.
Okay.
Her Excellency the Governor also promised an inclusive education and improved quality of early learning through hiring an additional 219 ECD teachers. She's also keen on improving healthcare for children through their better nutrition, free milk for 6,450 children in the ECD centers in the 17 counties. The Kananu administration will also install 850 water tanks, that's 10 tanks per ward, and sink boreholes in the informal settlements to ensure improvement of water and sanitation. My administration will continue to use our strategic position in the country to continue being the regional hub of the many visitors transiting. She is in office November up to August next year. She is in office when the budget for the county assembly for this financial year has already been passed, approved, allocated until June next year. The next budget, she'll only play around with it for like 2 months before she steps aside to go and campaign. if she wants to be governor again. So all these things that she's talking about, how realistic are they? Is it just a thing that, because I've taken office, I've got to show that I have work to do and I'll be doing some work?
No.
She's going to give free milk. She's going to give water tanks. She wants to revitalize our 24-hour economy. She wants to do this and the other. What are those things?
I think these are things that were already in the pipeline. And all she's saying is that she's going to ensure that...
She's just claiming them.
Yes. Because how many administrative leaders actually get to start something new? It's just that most of us aren't aware of the plans that had been there by the previous administration. And so when they take over what was there and they claim it to be theirs, unless you're privy to the details of what had been planned, you will assume it is definitely theirs. And most politicians will not tell you that we are continuing with what so-and-so began. No. This is what we have done. And yet the truth of the matter is, if you are talking about the welfare of any community, let's say like those in a county, it's a relay. Somebody starts, someone continues. So,
these are all city.
Yes.
Can I just, I was trying to look for another one. Let's just say, this is nonsense.
It's a relay.
This is, look.
It is a relay.
Look, Madam Governor, you've been deputy governor for a while. Now you know the office. You came in, you had not participated in any way in the running of the county. You are not a CEC, you are not an MCA, you are not a politician. You came in. In your number of months as a deputy governor, you've seen what's happening. There is Lieutenant General Buddy running his things as NMS, and then there is a county running its things. Now, when you come in and say you're going to install 850 water tanks, and you're going to sink boreholes in informal settlements now, and you're going to give 6,000 children better nutrition by giving them free milk now, why haven't you done it?
Eric,
what are we waiting for?
Eric, the boreholes have been sunk. Unless we're being told they're sinking more boreholes.
She's talking about sinking more boreholes.
That's what I'm saying.
And erecting water tanks.
Yes, and I'm saying, why don't we do an audit and find out how many boreholes have been sunk by the NMS? How many water tanks have been provided for? When I'm calling it a relay, I am being polite. I am simply saying that one of the things that any smart politician does is they ride on what already exists, what has been done, what has been planned for, and they assume it as their own. It's what they do.
So just come in and say, I took over as deputy governor. When we passed the budget, I was deputy governor, and these were the plans. Now I'm governor, we shall continue with these plans. Don't come and say, this is my plan.
Eric.
I keep talking about politicians lying to us through their speeches. I say this all the time. The president should not be doing some speeches. You just come out and tell us the truth. I am starting off with Governor Mwenda Kananu. Just tell us the truth. Stop coming to tell me you're going to give children, 6,000 children, free milk. Why haven't you started today? Why did you need to hold the Bible so that you can start giving milk?
Giving milk before you've held the Bible doesn't quite work.
So you need the Bible to...
Then the sort of the milk, it's usually the sort of milk and honey, but this one will just accept the milk and forget the honey. Eric, I am going to soft pedal on this one for a simple reason, right? Remember the time when, was she going to be deputy governor? Was she going to... We had that discussion here.
Yeah.
Now, remember my position then? Do you remember?
No, I don't. Remind me.
I said...
You have many positions.
No, forget the position. I also changed them. Now, this one I haven't changed. Okay? I said, it isn't whether Kananu wants to be governor or is going to be governor. It's more a question of the people who actually hold power. Do they want her to be governor? Yes. That's the question. And I said, it appears they want her to be governor. So all these hurdles we are seeing, they will come, but what they want is what will happen.
Verily, verily, I say unto thee.
Yes. It isn't even wisdom. It's just understanding the direction the wind is blowing. It's not complicated.
That's okay.
Now, again, this I didn't say, but I'm saying now. Milk will be provided. There will be boreholes. There will be water tanks.
Okay.
Okay? For how long, I can't say. But they will be there.
So these will just be campaign goodies.
They will be
in campaign goodies, some of the children who are going to nursery schools in Nairobi are going to drink free milk.
They will drink free milk.
In campaign goodies, There are some water tanks. We don't even know the capacity of the tank that will be given out to every ward.
They will be there. There'll be boreholes that have already been sunk, which will be utilized because they'll have the water. They may even sink a few more. That will happen.
There'll be lighting and sanitation. Though these are stories.
Sanitation already have lights.
These are stories. Yeah, I'm just telling you, City. I'm tired of politicians, of people just coming to tell us, this is what I'm going to do.
Nairobi.
Making it sound like a blueprint, like there's a long-term proper plan. There's no plan.
The last time we had a lady at the helm of this great, wonderful city, now which is a metropolis, was when Margaret Kenyatta was our mayor. Okay? Mm-hmm. We now have a governor. I'm going to support her. There will be water tanks, there will be boreholes, there will be
improved security,
there'll be lighting, and there'll be free milk. Yes.
Okay.
And let the beat go on.
Okay. Yeah, okay. So, if you want to do it, just do it.
Eric, stop being a wet blanket.
No, this one I will be a complete wet blanket. I don't miss taki kudanganywa fwa. You at least be a bit clever in how you're lying to me. This is just too blatant. Surely. What's in the Business Daily as we take
what is in the Business Daily, my friend? Universities face closure in World Bank loan deal.
Universities flee?
Face closure. Thousands likely to lose jobs under plan to also merge the struggling parastatals. That's as an aside. Kenya has come under pressure from the World Bank to close and merge the cash-strapped public universities and loss-making parastatals in what would see thousands of public servants lose their job. The multilateral financier reckons that Kenya should merge institutions of higher learning because of duplication of courses. This is utter nonsense. This is utter nonsense.
So you think a university that is not even receiving applications for students should continue offering that program?
No, I'm going to qualify the statement of this is utter nonsense. Okay. Whenever these things are presented in the way this has been presented, it doesn't tell you the whole story of what needs to be done. The entire thinking of the university and the needs that Kenyan has for that particular level of learning is what we need to relook at and talk about in great detail. Now, when we've talked about it, then the issue of what to merge or what to do then becomes relevant. But to start off with, let us merge. You understand what I'm saying?
No, I don't.
You will understand.
You're assuming those things have not taken taken place.
I am most definitely assuming.
Some of them are just obvious. You have a university degree program or diploma program that you're running here. You don't even have students applying for it. Okay? Another one is doing the same. Another one, you have duplicity.
Yeah, but Eric, that's what I'm trying to say. That duplicity is not solved by you merging them. It's by you offering relevant courses.
Okay. See, that's the thing. It's 7 a.m. Good morning.
Spice up your life. The latest news from around the world. 94.4 Spice FM.
This is Newswire. Dennis Aseto. Muguna has now been forced to return to Canada, where he lives after his unsuccessful attempt to return to the country. Speaking to KTN News, Muguna acknowledged that the government's decision to ban airlines from ferrying him have become a major obstacle for him, and he has to cancel the trip for now.
I don't have a plane, and even if I did have a plane, if I am not given clearance to land in Kenya, like Air France told me, they were told specifically that if they carried me, they would not be given landing rights. They would not be able to transport the other passengers to take to Nairobi. So they would just turn around and come back. So the same thing would happen to me even if I had a plane.
However, he continued to complain about the government's harassment, insisting that he had no reason to persuade the government to allow him to return to the country, first insisting they need to comply with the court orders, and secondly considering that he was already living and continuing with his activities in the country.
I can choose to go to my home anytime I want. I have a right to go home. I've not been home for 4 years. Can you imagine what that is? I have a house. I have actually property in Kenya. I have a family in Kenya. I have relatives who have died. I have loved ones I have not seen for 4 years. I have a property that was destroyed 4 years ago that have not been repaired. I have law firm practice of law. I have cases before the High Court of Kenya. I have a living to make like everybody else. I don't need a reason to go home.
This is activist under the United Progressive Front filed a petition in court seeking a new order compelling the government to remove travel restrictions on Miguna. The activists also aimed to get an order to demand that Air France allows Miguna to fly to the country. Miguna was expected to arrive in the country today from Berlin, Germany, but was barred from boarding the aircraft on grounds that there were red alert restrictions imposed by the Kenyan government. LSK President Nelson Harvey emphasized that the government had not shown any interest in respecting court orders by continuing to harass Miguna, a Kenyan citizen.
We underscore the need for the government of the Republic of Kenya to obey court orders, to remove the red alerts and ensure that Miguna is given unrestricted entry back to his home. Air France is the second respondent in the case before the court, and Air France has continuously stated to the court that they will abide by the court order.
U.S. Secretary of State Anthony Blinken is today expected to hold talks with President Uhuru Kenyatta on various security issues. Blinken is in the country for a short visit before heading to Nigeria and Senegal. The two will discuss the security situation in Ethiopia, Somalia and Sudan, while events in Uganda and the state of alert in Kenya are expected to intensify considering that Kenya sits in the United Nations Security Council together with the United States, who is a permanent member. Blinken, accompanied by Foreign Affairs CS Rachel Omamo, will also meet with civil society organizations, visit the memorial site of the August 7, 1998 bombing, visit the Karura Forest and UNEP headquarters. President Kenyatta will be returning to the country from Ethiopia, where he held talks with Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed on the threat of insurgency. That the police has assured Kenyans that it has tightened security at the borders following a suicide bombing that killed 4 people yesterday in Kampala, Uganda. Police spokesperson Bruno Shioso said security officials had taken extra precautions and were directed to intensify their operations within and across the border in order to protect civilians against possible criminal and terrorist incidents. These senior police officers at Committee Prison have already recorded reports of the disappearance of 3 inmates convicted of terrorism offences. CS Fred Matiang'i assured Kenyans that the 3 will be arrested and held accountable.
I must be very frank. I'm personally very angry about what has happened here, and we are trying to get to the bottom of the matter. We have several officers from this institution in police custody right now, and we are trying to find out exactly what happened. We've gone to the place where the escape allegedly happened, and we have formed certain opinions. We don't want to discuss that because we do not want to interfere with the work that the DCI is doing.
Now, the government has invited Islamic religious leaders and human rights activists to discuss the killing and disappearance of terrorist suspects in the country. Interior CS Dr. Fred Matiang'i, who will chair the session, said that the main purpose is to assess allegations that the government has been involved in such cases. In addition, he said that attendees will be free to express their views and arguments without fear. Expected to attend the session are representatives from the Police Service Department, the National Anti-Terrorism Center and IPOA, the Law Society of Kenya, Justice Africa, Jamia Mosque, SUPKEM and NAMLEF. Amnesty International will be represented. This is Newswire. I'm Dennis Aseto.
SpiceFM, Nakuru.
Langata Road, you know what Langata Road has been doing in the last couple of days. So it's busy and the traffic stretches to almost near Onyonka, and it starts from there heading towards T-Mall. And then from T-Mall, it's clear up Raila Odinga Way and down to Langata Road or to Aerodrome Road. Mombasa Road is busy just at this section that I've been talking about at City Cabanas, but the other usual sections in Lolongo and the SGR terminus are also quite busy. Now, there's something happening on Outer Ring Road near Feather Estate. It's quite busy on both sides of the road, so be careful. We know that, yes, there are bumps, there's the narrowing of the road, and then there are matatus that don't have a stage, so they just stop in the middle of the road. So that being peak time could also be a very, very big issue here. And then the Eastern Bypass in Utawala and Mihango, very busy. Thika Road, it stretches now. It's approaching, it's past drive-in and then comes all the way to the junction with Muthui Road and Kiambu Road, and also Kiambu Road gets busy. Now, in the way towards town, Uhuru Highway approaching Lusaka roundabout, it's very, very, very busy. And this is the Nyayo Stadium roundabout. Ngong Road to town is not bad. Westlands to town is not bad. Anything that we ought to talk about, please let us know by texting us SpiceFM KE, and text is 40127.
This is The Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Okoh, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latiff, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, newshound, a man who believes in punching
Very good
up,
morning to you if you're
not
just
down.
joining us on the 17th day of November 2021. This is Kenya's biggest conversation, The Situation Room on SpiceFM. We are broadcasting around the country on SpiceFM and also around the world on SpiceFM KE, on YouTube, on Facebook, and on Twitter. Donald says, I can't get you live either on Facebook or Twitter. Okay, let's check that, Donald. We'll let you know shortly. City, today's proverb?
Yes, it's a Kiswahili proverb. Jifunze kukaa kimya, mtulivu, kisha zingatia. Sababu sio kila kitu kinahitaji majibu.
Have we finished? Sounds like it's the beginning of a story.
Well, it did begin and it also ended.
Okay.
Yes.
So say it in English.
Learn to be silent. To be at peace. Be contemplative. The reason is because not everything that is said requires a response.
Not everything that's said requires a response.
No.
Sometimes, just shut up.
As you have heard, consider that hearing the end of the matter. Yes, because you've heard. A retort is not necessary.
Okay.
Yes.
Just hear and let it go.
You've heard it. It is good enough. The hearing is an adequate participation.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. It's a good proverb. So something else that's big in the news, and it happened in Uganda yesterday. News started trickling in from Uganda, from Kampala, of some explosions in Kampala, on the streets of Kampala. One opposite the Central Police Station, another one near the police headquarters. And the social media was awash with footage and photos of what was happening there. Some of it gory. And you could see, the injured people. You could see people who appeared to be lifeless, lying on the road and the streets. And it was quite scary of what was happening, what was going on. The police later held a press conference and they shared what they were saying, that's the CCTV footage of the incident as it happened. And they showed, for example, the one near the police station, the CPS, somebody walking with a backpack, and then they just detonate it. It's a suicide bomber goes off. And you could see ordinarily people are just walking on the street. So there's somebody who's ahead of you carrying a bag. You're not even thinking about anything that they're doing. It doesn't occur to you at all.
It cannot.
So there's a guy who's just following this person. And of course, the next thing you see is a cloud of smoke. And you can imagine if the person carrying the bomb was basically blown to pieces. The person next to them
was also blown to pieces.
Yeah. Unfortunate incident as it was. The president of Uganda at 10:30 p.m. last night released a statement also on his Twitter account, and I'm going to read some parts of that statement. He said, "To the Ugandans, especially the Bazukulu, today at 10 a.m., some pigs, in reality manipulated and confused Bazukulu, apparently blew themselves up, one near the IGG office and the other near the CPS. At about 10:30, the police caught, injured and captured the third terrorist in the area of Katoke, Boise, with his bomb. He later died, but he had given us some very good information before dying. His name is Musa Mudasiri. The bomber of the CPS was by the names of Mansour Uthman, and the one of the IGG office is by the names of Wanjusi Abdallah. All these are part of the ADF group that attacked General Katumba in June. As I told the country before, by attacking General Katumba, these terrorists exposed themselves at a time when our security infrastructure has improved compared to what it was in 2018 when I made the speech to Parliament. Since the attack on General Katumba, the following has been achieved. 7 people have been killed while resisting arrest, 81 have been arrested, 3 have been killed by the bombs that they were carrying. The 2 of today were therefore running away from being arrested." This is the president of Uganda on his Twitter handle. He's not run away from Twitter. "We've been hunting for them since the Katumba incident." And he says they've killed 7 of them, and he goes ahead to list their names. And then he says the one who blew himself in the bus was Matovu Muzavari. Unfortunately, 3 people died in today's incident, apart from the 3 suicide bombers. The injured are 36. Apart from hunting the terrorists, the country's strategy of vigilance is helping to minimize damage. He says, "These terrorists have exposed themselves when we are more ready for urban terrorism. They will perish. Rural terrorism was defeated in 2007 in the Semiliki National Park. I am referring to the dead terrorists as manipulated victims of confusion. The real pigs are people like Nsubuga, the so-called sheikh that confused young people at Lueza. If blowing oneself up will send one to Jannah, let him blow himself up as an example instead of manipulating young children." President of the Republic of Uganda, Yoweri Kaguta Museveni. And he signs off with a photo of him in full military regalia, saluting. That's his Twitter handle. He basically says, well, the ADF, and this is the Allied Democratic Forces of Uganda, took responsibility, claimed responsibility for the attacks yesterday. This is a group that has been fighting the Museveni administration for a while. It was formed by some military officials who used to be in the Idi Amin government. Remnants of the Idi Amin administration, who are saying that the Yoweri Museveni administration is doing a crackdown, an unfair crackdown on the minority Muslims. And so they were using religion as their launchpad. They have fought with the government for some time in the 90s with domestic grievances. They were defeated by the Ugandan military. They crossed over into DRC where they've been operating. And a couple of years ago, they announced their affiliation with the Islamic State.
You know, it all begins, if you look at it, with disgruntlement for whatever reason.
Yeah.
People who feel they've been disenfranchised, people who feel that they've been disavowed, they've been mistreated. Now, coming from a state where a country has been at war, maybe even with itself, those who are vanquished often disappear and go elsewhere. And they never stop their activities. Rwanda has a similar problem. There are people who are constantly trying to fight their way back into the country after they had been defeated and after they had left. And the one place where all these people seem to go, whether they're in Uganda or Tanzania, is DRC.
Yep.
Okay? So you could even argue that there are sections of these countries that have actually never really known what you may call real peace. Now, if you have a situation such as that one, it is good, mature, fertile ground for fermenting what even begins as just a little revolt into full-blown insurrection. People who are willing, and such a person getting them to, or tying your own agenda with theirs, and getting them to believe that your agenda and theirs is the same, is actually not difficult.
Yeah.
When we had the gentleman who's an expert on the Horn of Africa and its issues talking to us, the thing that he mentioned that I found alarming when we were talking about Al-Shabaab is that the number and the increase in the numbers of recruits in this country of Kenya were not people who you think traditionally came from families that were, again, traditionally Muslim. No. They are people who came from what we call up country. They were Merus, they were Luyas, they were Luos, they were Kikuyus. People who ordinarily are not associated traditionally with the religions that are associated with terrorism. Not at all. And he even said that the number 2 in the organization was somebody whose origins were from Meru, if you recall. Now, that is what I would refer to as the changing face of what we call terrorism. So what do you have? A situation where in the past you would hear of families at the coast complaining about sons who just disappear. Now, it's other families within Kenya whose children have just vanished. They don't know what. And they even reappear. And they seem to be okay. And then they disappear again. The problem that we're dealing with, yes, is manifested in terrorism. But what is it that is making the numbers of people who are willing to get into these groupings increase? What is it? Because do we have evidence that the numbers are decreasing? Do we have the evidence that the numbers are increasing? Everything about it is anecdotal. But the thing that we know for certain is that the government foils very many terrorist attacks. That one we know for a fact. They do so because we have a good intelligence system. That we have to fight this hard indicates that it is a growth industry, that more and more people seem that way inclined. Stories are told about why it's attractive. You are not just offered, they don't start by telling you, please come and join a terrorism group. No. It's laced with something a little more pleasant, an opportunity to train, an opportunity to learn to be religious, an opportunity to have a job. And you're even offered a decent salary. And when you go for the training, that salary is actually paid for even 1 to 3 months. Now, thereafter, a different story emerges. Eric, what am I saying? I am saying that if you have a growing population, like the one we have in East and Central Africa, and unfortunately, the vast majority of the people whom we have are young and do not have prospects. It's not a question of jobs and cannot see what the future holds. What you have is a very large pool of people who can easily be swayed into mischief.
Be that as it may, you see, for example, northern Uganda has had all this, the LRA, the DRC has had all these people, the Rwanda has been fighting them. Now we are seeing a group, yes, this is the ADF, it's been there for a while, and they have been using religion, and now they seem to be more emboldened. And it appears, it's like, because ISIS has never really referred to them openly, as you know, we recognize ADF in any of their statements. It's like they're trying to get that recognition. It's like they're trying to fight to be recognized by the big brother.
Meaning, essentially, they're applying for membership.
They're applying to be, talk about us, about the work that we are doing. You see the other Al-Shabaabs of Mozambique.
Yes.
And what they've done.
Yes.
The kind of terror that they've reigned in a section of a country, such that a neighboring country had to come in and send its forces to come and try and deal with them. This is something that is also increasing.
You know, that thing puzzles me, but we'll discuss it later. It puzzles me today, but go on. Yes.
I'm just saying it's increasing the number of, this is now religious issues that are spreading outside.
Eric, it's more
because I think what I was seeing earlier, okay, well, LRA was also religious, but now, you know, Lakwena and what she was saying was something different. The rebel groups within the DRC that have been fighting, the both Kontagandans and the others, were not using religion.
No, they were not using religion. These were just out and out power seekers who wanted a military solution to a problem that they felt they had. I don't consider it to be a religious problem. I consider it to be that religion is being used to further the interest that these people have. Look at Boko Haram. Is it a religious problem really? Is it a religious issue really? No. These are people who have an agenda, and they found religion to be a convenient tool to use in pursuing their agenda.
So theirs is a political agenda.
Yes.
Religion is just a tool.
But even these other fellows, look at it. To understand Al-Shabaab and to understand, why don't we go to the country of Somalia? There are whole sections of that country that are controlled by Al-Shabaab. And what do we see them doing? It's a government within a government.
Yep.
They run things. So are you telling me that it's a religious fight? He said, no. It's the same age-old fight for power. But these ones have found comfort in religion, and it's a good tool to use. Yes. In the name of religion.
Now, what is bothering you about what's happening in
what's bothering me about
Mozambique?
What's bothering me? Eric, that story was in the news for a very long time. And you got the impression that the insurgents had free reign. They just walked into places and took over. What was bothering me was, this is a country. It has an armed force. This is part of the country. More importantly, this part of the country was rich in minerals.
Yes.
So I'm thinking, how is it that the intelligence failed to understand that this would be an easy target? How is it that then they were relying on the private enterprise that were there and the security forces to provide security? Puzzling. In an independent country.
The government had outsourced security.
Now, don't you find it puzzling?
Quite.
What on earth is going on here? So what you're saying, in essence, is that your neighbor could walk into your country and take it over.
Yep.
Because if your own insurgents are doing it and we can see it, then somebody else can decide, these guys don't have the wherewithal to maintain their own. Let's just walk in and take this thing over. I found it puzzling. Very, very puzzling. I still find it puzzling.
Does it speak of, is it weakness of the government, or is it deliberate neglect?
That's where the puzzle comes.
So the area is mineral rich, but
absolutely so.
But is the area, are the minerals being tapped at present?
And who is it who is tapping the minerals? And what is the understanding that they have?
Yeah.
That is where, if you look carefully, you'll find the politicians have a hand in it. Because they've been taken care of, so then they're okay. The problem with mineral-rich regions on this continent is this. There's a huge dichotomy. It's also where you find some of the poorest people in that particular country. Now, if you come from a place that is mineral-rich and you can see the wealth and the manifestations of it, and you languish in poverty, what do you think you are breeding in that place? Do you think the person who is poor, this is their home, this is their country? Is it difficult for such a person to understand subversion as a way forward in trying to further the cause? What I'm saying is, if you have internal support, meaning I am the insurgent, but locally, my cause is being supported by locals, meaning they are not resisting me. Simply because they don't see how it is those who are there already benefiting them.
And also, it's a source of employment that I'm providing.
It is.
In very many ways.
It is.
So I'm running the mines, so I'm paying people. I'm running the military, using the proceeds from the mines. I'm paying the soldiers. Basically, I'm providing a livelihood to all these people. They'll come and join.
Yes.
What we've seen in the DRC with all these rebel groups, take over a mineral-rich area and they are running the place. They're the ones who are making the money and they're paying the locals. These guys, the locals, this is what they know. If I'm not holding a gun, I'll be in the mine. So either way, this is an employer. And I'm given sophisticated weaponry, I'm given uniform, I'm given money. I am maintaining a certain lifestyle. I am therefore walking around with a big gun and I am sitting and marching. I'm commanding respect.
I probably even have a vehicle at my disposal.
Yes. I'm commanding respect. It's a livelihood.
Yes.
There's no other alternative. I haven't gone to school. There are no other jobs here. There's nobody else who's coming to run the mines. The mine is being run by this person. There's nobody else who's running any other kind of commercial interest. No agriculture that is commercially viable here. So the only jobs and opportunities available for me are from this person. So I'll come in. And then the person tells me, you know what the orders are? Go and recruit more. Go and get those young kids. Bring them. Go and get the young kids and bring them. And they join. So it just becomes an army that is just out of control, out of focus, and there's the only thing that they know.
You know, actually, Eric, one of the things that you have said, which are actually true, you see, in many parts of this continent, these big industrial complexes that mine and are up, that resource, the natural wealth that those countries have, they are a government unto themselves. If you look at just the structure and what they command and what they have, they are a government.
Unto themselves.
Yes, and they are able to influence even politics at the very highest level of that particular country, simply because of the financial might that they have. And now when you throw in the ability to have their own internal security, what you've done is you've ensured they have their own army. Now you're talking about DRC. DRC is federal in many, many ways. And federal in more ways that people even care to admit. You know, it's a huge country. So what that means is whoever is the governor, whoever is the head of that particular federal unit is the boss. And they have a certain level of autonomy in the running of what happens in that particular province of theirs. This is a discussion for yet another day. But the truth of the matter is that so long as a system such as this one exists, there will always be people on this continent who are languishing in abject poverty, and especially in areas that are mineral rich. It's unfortunate. So the differences are so vast and they are so stark naked. Even if you wanted to avoid it, you can't avoid it because it forces you to see it.
Indeed. This is Kenya's biggest conversation, the Situation Room on SpiceFM. This morning we are discussing the security situation in the region. We saw the attacks in Uganda yesterday. We'll be talking about what's happening at committee, what happened at committee in terms of the escape of 3 terrorists. We're not calling them terror, some terror one or the other. They were just terrorists, convicted terrorists, serving their jail terms at committee. And then allegedly, they just disappeared. And police are trying to find out where they are. Police have even offered some 20 million shillings for the capture of each of those people. We'll be discussing that shortly. Let's take this break at 28 minutes past 7. We'll be back shortly.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day. Spice up your life.
Hello.
Halo, umesikia?
Nimesikia nini?
Hujasikia habari? Hebu acha nikuambie. Kile kimetokea.
Hello? Hello? Hello?
Don't wait for hearsay. Dial star 550 star 1 hash to read the Standard e-paper from the convenience of your mobile phone for only 20 shillings from your telecom line, and stay up to date for a reliable source with over 100 years of experience with no additional data charges.
Have you seen them? Am I lying?
Yes, it's a very nice outfit, I must say. Good
Thank
job.
you. Asante sana.
The compliment is well received.
Good morning and thank you. Everyone in Wasingishu was asking me what channel is SpiceFM.
96.7. Tell them that, right?
Yes, now they know.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
Pleasure to have
you.
What
a beautiful studio, my friend.
I've been to other radio stations, but I've never seen anything like this.
Thank you, and it's very nice to be in a modern studio. Absolutely brilliant.
And I have to say, it's a very cool ambiance here in your radio room. Just for our listeners, I think it is below zero in this room here. Very Swiss temperatures.
Okay, so what's happening now? Well, what's happening is that Nairobi is warming up, but it's going to be a mostly cloudy day today at 26 the highs. Mombasa will have light rain at 32. Malindi will be partly sunny at 32. Kisumu will mostly sunny at 30. Nakuru cloudy day at 28. Nyeri town cloudy at 25. Eldoret sunny day at 25 and Kakamega sunny day at 31. In Kampala, Uganda, it's going to be a sunny day today at 29. Dar es Salaam mostly sunny day at 31. And GRC, Kinshasa, rain showers at 30. Lagos, Nigeria, mostly clear skies at 32. Johannesburg in South Africa, mostly cloudy day at 30. In Beijing, China, it's a sunny day. It's been a sunny day. It's 12 degrees presently. It's going to drop to 1 now. There's winter and frosty advisory has been issued for New York, Clear skies today, but frosty at 10. Temperatures dropping to 4 later. London, partly cloudy at 12. Temperatures dropping to 9 later. And Paris, France, cloudy at 13. And temperatures are going to drop to 3 later on.
Spice up your life.
The issue that has been there on Langata Road continues, and now the traffic on Langata Road goes all the way to near the turnoff into the police dog unit in Langata, and this is that far. This is how far basically the traffic is stretching. It comes all the way down to the T-Mall junction, and then it's clear from there. Raila Odinga Way is clear this morning. There's an issue on Southern Bypass as you come towards the Mombasa Road, but it's not so bad. In Mombasa Road itself, it's been not so bad this morning, apart from the small issue at City Cabanas, both ways, at Imara Daima. There's some traffic snarl up. And then North Airport Road is busy as you come towards Mombasa Road. And then Outer Ring Road at Feather Estate and Pipeline Railway Stop, it's quite busy. Jogoo Road, how's it looking like? The usual issues. Makadara coming towards Church Army and Hamza. Very, very, very busy this morning. Thika Road, how's it looking? It's looking as you expect it to look. Traffic starts at Outer Ring Road interchange coming towards town, and also Kiambu Road, it goes all the way to near Garden Estate, comes back towards the Muthui junction. After that, Muranga Road is moving well. Wangari Maathai Road is moving well, and if you can use that to get into town to avoid the Globe Cinema roundabout.
Sugar and spice and everything nice. SpiceFM.
Spice up your life. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right.
minutes to 8, the conversation continues. We're talking about the security situation in the region. We saw the statement that was released by the president of Uganda yesterday with regards to the attacks that took place in Kampala yesterday. Several attacks, 3 suicide bombers all died, and they also killed 3 other people. And this attack has been attributed to the Allied Democratic Forces, and is a rebel group that's been operating out of eastern DRC, making some attacks in Uganda. In June this year, there was an attack that was launched that was targeted at a general in Uganda, and the president said, "Hey, you have come for our general. Fine. It's okay. It's okay." He's repeated the same. He says, in fact, this time we are better prepared than we were even in 2018. In terms of urban warfare, we are better prepared. Our security agencies are better prepared. So bring it on. We're here, ready to deal with you. We hope to speak to somebody in Uganda shortly, a journalist in Uganda. Let's now also cross over and add the conversation to the alerts that have been given to us by the National Security Council, saying, let's be vigilant. The National Police Service, the Inspector General of Police recalling the police officers, the heightened state of alert, and then also what we have seen. Number 1, a terrorist who has been serving a jail sentence leaves Community Maximum Prison, disappears. 3 other terrorists who are serving their jail sentences at Community Maximum Prison, they don't leave, they are not released from prison. They are still within prison, they escape. They stage a daring escape. And from what the police have told us, it was discovered at 10 a.m. Yet there's a roll call that's conducted every morning at 6. Between 6 and 7, there's a roll call that's conducted when a shift is coming in. And there's a, tour around the cells. But at 10, that's when the first alarm is raised. And the prison authorities here at committee, they raise the headquarters and say, you know what, there's some prisoners who have escaped. This is what we're told. And then the prison headquarters alerts the Inspector General of Police and the DCI. DCI officers go in and they begin their investigations. The Inspector General of Police has been there. The DCI boss has been there. The CS for Interior has been there. We have seen officers who've been arrested and arraigned in court. over their negligence that led to the escape of these particular terrorists. Now, this one, and we said it earlier, CT, for me, this one is a bit iffy. The fact that we are saying that these people escaped a maximum security is not the first time. Actually, the Standard has done a very good analysis of the number of daring escapes that we've seen from our prisons in recent years. But in terms of the particular group of people, no, it's not the Standard, it's actually the Nation. In terms of the particular group of people we're talking about, in terms of how they escaped, in terms of why they ended up escaping, let's just look at some of these escapes that have taken place recently. June 5th, 2019, 19 robbery with violence suspects jumped to freedom from a moving police lorry as they were being taken to industrial area remand prison. May the same year, a robbery violence suspect was shot dead after he attempted to wrest a firearm from a police officer while being transferred from Kangundu police station to the Machakos GK prison. March 2019, a convict with mental illness serving a life sentence at Manyani Maximum Security Prison escapes, only to be arrested 2 days later as he tried to sneak back into the prison. February 2019, 7 suspected narcotic traffickers and 5 robbery with violence suspects escaped from Makongeni police station in Thika. November 2018, 6 remandees at Migori GK prison escaped by jumping from a moving police vehicle. June 2018, 2 prisoners escaped from the Malindi GK prison on foot and sent a text message to a journalist claiming they were being tortured. August 2018, Timothy Leretti, who was serving a 3-month sentence, allegedly aided by a prison warden to escape Mararal GK prison. How many are we seeing here from committee? Not many from committee. Yeah, we're seeing prisons from Kibos, Garissa Police Station, Isiolo GK prison, Embu GK prison. In 2016, there was an escape from Committee Maximum Prison. Wardens at Committee Maximum Prison shoot in the air to thwart an attempt by an inmate serving a life sentence to escape after he got out of his cell in 2016. We haven't seen in the recent 5 years an escape from Committee Maximum Prison.
No.
The one that actually happened was 6 years ago in 2015, May. 3 criminals serving life sentences escaped from committee. The convicts, Joseph Kinyanjui, John Kamau, and Isaac Karanja Mwangi. Now, these are maximum security prison. Since then, we haven't seen anything like this. But now we are told that they dug a hole through the wall and they left this highly secured facility at a time when all security systems are on high alert, ordered by the National Security Council, which said all security systems in the country, high alert, includes KWS, includes Kenya Forest Service, includes Kenya Police, prisons, everybody, high alert. And then committee, an escape. I am questioning this.
You know, what is presented here from the year 2010 to 2019, you're talking about 26 attempts. Huh? Not all successful. But this is not considered odd. People who are incarcerated try to escape. And where your point becomes extremely valid, the idea of a maximum security prison means or implies that it's the one prison from where escape is near impossible. It is intended to keep those who are in there in. So the idea of even, well, you can contemplate if you wish, but the likelihood is slim to the point of being zero. Yes. So when you are told that amidst all these situations, suddenly people have escaped, I think one is within the correct frame of thinking to actually cast aspersion and say no. But also, the thing that is also constant in any of these attempts that you read about, you get the feeling that it is not possible for prisoners to attempt these things without colluding with those who have the mandate to oversee their incarceration. Yes. They're the ones who hold the keys, really.
In some cases, it could be some collusion without the prison authorities actually knowing what they're doing. Just befriending them. You've been here for a while. You're here for 7-6 years. This is a place where I work. So you're going to form some friendship of some sort. So in some cases, you do not actually know that you're giving this person information as they are planning their own escape. And in some cases, you're directly and expressly aiding their escape.
Actually, there is a story that is told. You know, there have been very many escapes that have been considered not just monumental or historical, but worthy of storytelling.
Yes.
Escape from Alcatraz.
Yes.
Now, the people who've studied such escapes, one of the things that has been pointed out as being stated by those who have escaped is that the prison warden is busy looking after all the inmates. And remember, the inmates are more than the wardens. Okay? The prisoner has time on their hands. Time. They have a lot of time.
Yeah.
And they have all the time in the world to figure out exactly how they're going to escape. The prison warden doesn't have the luxury of trying to figure out what these people may be figuring out. So the argument was that the likelihood of a prisoner actually escaping is actually higher than most people imagine. Simply because there is opportunity and there's time. No other reason. And as you say correctly, if somebody lives in a place for a long period of time, you soon be you understand the place.
Yes.
You understand the geography. Remember the story that is told of prisoners, and usually they're the ones we are told who are in prison for life. They are the prison attorneys. And they hold mock courts where someone's going to court. They will actually brief you and educate you on how to approach an issue, how to tackle it, how to present it. And if I'm to believe the stories I've heard, the advice they followed usually meets with good success. Why? And if you think about it, even if you have a legal mind representing you, a legal mind cannot compete with a mind that has been imprisoned and has been in that space for that length of time. There are things they know that you, the lawyer, cannot possibly know.
That's true.
Because their lived experience is in prison. So they understand it. They understand it so well.
When security agencies go ahead and even give some cash reward, announce a cash reward, 60 million shillings for the arrest of these three convicts, terrorists. What are they telling us?
You know, Eric, if you will permit me, may I ask a question before I attempt to answer this one? In the years that these things has been offered, have you ever known of anybody who's collected that money?
Hardly ever.
Okay.
Maybe they collect and then it's kept hush-hush, because as well, the person who collects the money has given some serious information, and the person that you have ratted on has friends and connections. So
you
if
put
it is
a
known
target
that
on your back.
Exactly. So maybe they're protected that way by, so we know who gave us the information, we deal with them, we give them the money that they ought to get, and then...
My greater fear is not even the culprits, the thieves, the thugs, or the hoodlums. Oh, no.
It's the security officers themselves
Yes.
who know.
Yes.
We just gave you 20 million shillings.
Yes. Where is ours?
You remember this story, was it last month, of the suspect who allegedly escaped from Buruburu police station.
The one who was later
Was
killed.
it Buruburu or Makadara?
The one who was later killed.
The one who ended up getting lynched.
Yes.
Very many hundreds of kilometers away from the police station where he allegedly escaped.
Yes, I remember that story very well.
Now, if you think about it, did you see any follow-up did you see the Inspector General of Police, for example, going to tour this facility?
No.
Did you hear anything from Bruno Shioso saying, this is what has happened? Apart from seeing some people who were taken to court and who were told that these are the officers who are on duty, who are responsible for the escape of that particular suspect. The officers, we didn't see them because they were covered head to toe like bridesmaids at a ratio. Couldn't even tell who this is. We just told, these are the people. Appeared in the dock, went. That story, of course, it has joined the queue of the many other cases that are in court. We talked about it here and asked, how is it possible for somebody, and this is a high-profile case that we are talking about, somebody who is accused, who has self-confessed to abducting and killing children.
Self-confessed.
And they're in your custody. And they can easily sneak out of custody. And it takes hours before officers realize that so-and-so is not here. How is it possible? And then the next thing you're seeing that this person left there, allegedly boarded public transport or whatever means of transport he used, went all the way to his father's shags in Western. And the story that we had known about this person before was that, number one, he was not brought up here. He grew up with his mother somewhere in Athi River. Then, at some point, he became a delinquent. The mother sent him to his father. Father tried to enroll him in a school. Boy took off. He did not even stay there for long. Came back. So the areas that he knows to operate in are the areas of Athi River, Machakos, Kajiado. Why would he leave and go back? That's
a place he's not really very familiar with.
Very familiar with. Now, if he's not very familiar with this place, who are these people who immediately noticed him and came and started attacking him and housed early in the morning? Have we seen those stories developing? Those very many question marks emerge out of this particular story of the escape to death of this particular person. And that's some questions I'm raising with regards to this report of the escape of terrorists from a highly secured facility at a time when the entire security apparatus is on the highest alert. Such high alert that a police officer on patrol is reported to have just listened to somebody asking questions and decided, wait a minute, come.
You're going to assist us with this?
Yes, you need to tell us why you're asking a police officers. That is the kind of alert level that we have in our security apparatus. And then someone disappears and they're not discovered that they have disappeared for many hours. I have very many questions on this.
It's unfortunate that these incidents come against a backdrop of very many other incidences we've had that have raised more questions than they have actually provided answers. Remember, there was the issue of the police officer Kangogo. Okay? Questions still remain unanswered. And I think they're going to continue remaining unanswered.
That story seems to have just gone.
The stories tend to go that way.
She killed herself. That's
it. Did you hear of the possibility of an inquest as to whether she actually killed herself or not?
Yeah.
No. It was accepted that was the case, and it has been concluded. The story has ended.
Yes.
Okay? Fine. It may very well have ended. But unfortunately, when you have loose ends, what you're doing is you're creating a culture where anything that even the most straightforward will be looked at through doubtful lenses. So even when an explanation is given, and it is a true explanation, because it is the only explanation, there will be the question of, are we sure that this is the only explanation? Now, when distrust becomes mistrust, because that's what we're dealing with here, unfortunately, the greatest security that a country has is not the security apparatus, it's its people.
Yeah.
In the absence of the people who inform you, in the absence of the people who tell you, because they know their neighborhood, they know their neighbors. In the absence of that, the security forces are blind.
Yep.
And it's because of this understanding that you have confidential informants, that's why you have an apparatus, and that's why you even have an intelligence service. That's why.
Yeah.
Because you want to find an information gathering apparatus that constantly gives information. And where do you think they get the information from? The citizens.
The public.
Yes. So now, if you do not develop that trust with the public, are you then going to be able to trust the intelligence that you get from them? Are you able to?
Hard.
Yes.
It makes your work even harder.
It does.
For you to actually gather information.
Yes. So even if you put out this ad that you are offering a reward, someone looks at it and says, Mtego.
This one.
Forget
it. Nothing. Harold Ayodo said, the committee maximum prison escape is a comical circus charade. Let the prison authorities tell it to the birds. You brought in another angle earlier, CT, on the coincidental timing of this particular escape.
Yes.
With the arrival of the U.S. Secretary of State.
I did.
What's the connection that you're seeing?
You see, I am asking myself this very simple question. Okay? And the question is, when we are told prisoners have escaped, have they actually escaped? I'm going to really go to town on this one here.
All right.
Were they even in prison?
These chaps.
Were they actually even in prison?
Well, maybe at some point though in prison.
I am even doubting that. It is very possible for a name to be there, which is similar to the person in the picture.
Yeah.
But the person who is supposed
themselves.
were they actually in prison?
In the first place.
In the first place.
Where else could they have been? They were in police custody. They used to appear in court. They were there during their sentencing.
All that is true.
Uh-huh.
And then?
So if they were in the custody of the authorities up to the point of sentencing, they were there in the dock as they were being sentenced. So what are you saying?
You know what I'm raising here is very simple. That is part of the dance. All that is true. They may even have entered that Maria, that black Maria, that vehicle, that congested vehicle that takes people. They may even have done that. They may even have gone up into the gates of committee. All right? And they may even have checked in. And then they may also have checked out. What am I trying to tell you? I'm trying to say that when you raise doubts about certain fundamental things, you raise doubts about everything.
What is the American connection in that?
The American connection, the American connection is with something that happened at the coast a while back with some drug lords called the Akasha brothers. All right? Taken, flown to America. Case heard there. We have that understanding. The country that has felt the brunt of terrorism in the West, the ones who've really felt the most of it has been the USA. They do not joke with terrorism. They do not take it lightly. If somebody who is known to be part of a terror group that have also been responsible for terrorism on American soil, what makes you think that such a person, what makes you think they may escape the likelihood of them also being transported like the Akasha bride?
I know we're not talking about small-time terrorists. We're talking about the people who are behind the attack in Garissa University.
Yes, and how many people were killed? 140?
140 plus.
Are those small-time terrorists?
This is not.
Precisely. And what else had they done prior to that? And what else are they capable of? But more importantly, what else do they know?
Yes.
Because if they can be entrusted with such atrocities, it means they are high up in the pecking order. I am simply saying that there are things that we've seen happening in the past. What stops a situation arising where these very same people are also handed over to the same authorities of the U.S.?
So those renditions that we used to hear about.
What
because there's a time when, in the fight against terrorism, when it was global, it was burning hot. The accusations were of those renditions into the CIA planes, into some dark facility somewhere. So somebody is at an airport, somebody is at a security facility, moved out of the country, spirited away. They end up either in Guantanamo Bay or end up nowhere.
Those are all possibilities. And you don't need to leave the country to go nowhere. No.
You can go nowhere.
You can actually go nowhere right within the boundaries of this particular country. How many people have we heard of who have vanished and have never been heard of again? Just vanished, completely gone, done. No one knows where they are. There's no sign of the body. It's done. They are gone. The point I'm trying to make here is this. When you cast doubt into the processes that you as a country undergo or go through, or you present the public as what you go through with security matters, if there are more questions being asked than the answers being provided, unfortunately, you open a very wide door for very wild speculation. That is precisely what I am saying. And that there is no limit to the wildness of the speculation if you've opened that door.
The door is open.
Yes.
And there's a
that
whole
is really
question
the point
of
I'm making.
not trusting.
Precisely. And Eric, when you talk to people in the streets, you know all these crazy things we see on social media. Somebody wakes up in the morning and decides to say the craziest thing on the planet. You think it's crazy. There are people who read it and believe it immediately. I have heard people say things which I consider to be absolutely mind-boggling crazy. But guana crazy. And yet, you find this thing that you think is preposterous. Some people take it in and lap it in as fodder. They believe it. And they believe it 100%. So, when we keep talking and asking the government to get into the habit of speaking the truth to its people, it is with this in mind. So that when you say something, the knee-jerk reaction is to believe you, not to disbelieve you. Right now, the knee-jerk reaction is to disbelieve.
To disbelieve.
Yes.
First thing you hear is like, really?
Forget about it.
Really?
Yes.
What are you saying? Really?
Yes. We want a situation where the knee-jerk reaction is not, the government has said so, it is okay. We've heard.
Yeah, that's the truth.
That's the truth. Not who? What? Forget about it. Let's wait for something else.
No reason at all to doubt.
Yes, because that, my friend, has a very direct impact on the security of the country.
Now that we mentioned Blinken, Blinken is expected to have arrived in the country last night. The visit comes days after the president raised the country's terror threat level due to the war raging in Ethiopia, and one day after an explosion in Kampala. Communication from the U.S. Department of State said the U.S. and Kenya will discuss shared interests as members of the UN Security Council, including regional security issues such as Ethiopia, Somalia, and Sudan. Blinken and the Defense Cabinet Secretary Rachel Omamo, this is Foreign Affairs Cabinet Secretary Rachel Omamo, will address a joint press briefing at Serena Hotel. He'll meet civil society groups as well as visit the August 7th Memorial Park, UNEP, and Karura Forests. Kenya will be Blinken's first stop in the tour of Africa that includes Nigeria and Senegal. Nation says there are a couple of questions that will be facing Blinken as he begins this tour of Africa. Number one of the questions that they ask is, what does the U.S. share with Africa? Number two is, why does Washington speak of Africa yet seems to focus on only a handful of countries? And yet they go on to say, U.S. presidents do not travel often to Africa and COVID-19 has not helped, but all recent trips by secretaries of state have been to Kenya, South Africa, Nigeria, Senegal, and Ghana, with a few other inclusions such as the DRC and Angola. Blinken is repeating this pattern, even though the U.S. says it has a common view of all African countries. So, Ned Price, the State Department spokesperson, told journalists that Blinken would only visit 3 capitals. The secretary will physically be on the soil of those 3 countries, but we are going to speak on issues that affect other countries as well. So, the other question that the nation is saying, what exactly is Kenya's role in the Ethiopia conflict? How impartial is the U.S. in the Ethiopia crisis? And does the U.S. know what Ethiopians want? Despite calls for dialogue, both sides of the war have promised to annihilate the other. TPLF spokesperson Getachew Reda said on Tuesday, if there's going to be a slim chance to avert Ethiopia's irreversible disintegration, it certainly means Abiy's departure and soon. So, does America really understand what the Ethiopians want? Or is America coming to tell the Ethiopians what they should want?
You know, the argument, the moment sides are taken, positions are also taken, and they're hard and fast. I mean, there is the discussion about the way America has always condemned what they call people who violate the freedoms of others, and how they have been quick to prefer sanctions on people who propagate war. And those who are arguing, but the Tigrayans are at war and they're doing the other. You see, no one wins this sort of conflict. Sides have been taken, and all we're seeing is that people are digging in. People in Washington, D.C. of Ethiopian descent are already forming a government and determining that Abiy should go and who should take over from Abiy. Do you really think that the government in Addis is going to look at this kindly?
No. They form opinions left, right, and center. Keep it right here for more conversations. In the next hour, let's speak to Vihiga Governor Dr. Wilbur Otichilo, the governor of Vihiga County, who is our guest and who will be speaking to us about the impact of climate change in the country. This is a man who actually is an expert on matters of climate change. Good morning. It's 8 a.m.
Spice up your life. The latest news from around the world. 94.4 Spice FM.
The 6 million mark in the COVID-19 vaccination exercise, with a total of 6,083,449 people vaccinated. Health Muthui Kagwe said the figure included 3,905,215 people who had received their first jab, while 2,178,234 were fully vaccinated, pushing the proportion of fully vaccinated adults to 8%. He further revealed in a statement that the uptake of the second dose among those who received their first dose stood at 52.1%. These as 75 people tested positive for the disease in 24 hours out of 3,854 tested within the same period. The positivity rate stood at 2%. Additionally, COVID-19 fatalities rose to 5,322 after 3 more deaths were picked from audited records. The government has announced that the inter-school games would soon resume. In a statement dated November 15, 2021, the Ministry of Health recommends that inter-school sporting activities gradually resume with strict adherence to the current guidelines prepared by the Ministry of Education. The news has been welcomed and is seen as a boost to learners who, since the advent of COVID-19, now stretching close to 2 years, have not been actively engaged in sports due to the ban on the games. Now, Kenya still lacks adequate legal mechanisms to address online sexual exploitation and abuse. A new report has revealed that while countries like Kenya have online sexual exploitation and abuse laws in place, lack of consistent legislation and internationally adopted laws have made obtaining legal recourse a challenge. The report indicated that international and national laws are failing to keep pace with advancing technology, noting that measures to prevent and detect online sexual exploitation and abuse have been mostly left to digital service providers and platforms because of the different contractual, criminal and private law obligations placed on them in different countries. Now, Defense Cabinet Secretary Eugene Omalwa told Parliament that British soldiers involved in the murder of Agnes Wanjiru in Nanyuki in 2012 will be extradited to Kenya to face murder charges. Speaking before the National Assembly Defense Committee, Omalwa said the government is considering the issue as the highest priority. The CS disclosed that they have agreed with the British government to do a joint investigation and bring the culprits to the country to face justice. He noted that once the prosecution is made, the UK government will ensure extradition happens. Now, Deputy President William Ruto is confident that he will defeat Orange Democratic Movement Party leader Raila Odinga in the 2022 presidential elections, saying the former premier is by no means his match. Speaking in Lare, Meru County, Ruto advised his competition to settle on another presidential candidate, stating that if it comes down to him and Odinga, he will win the polls. Referencing the 2013 and 2017 election victories by the Jubilee Party led by President Uhuru Kenyatta himself, he said he will defeat him again come 2022. Now, over 100,000 households in Nakuru County are set to benefit from a national government emergency water extension program targeting densely populated and low-income areas in the area. The 500 million shillings project targets to supply an additional 300,000 cubic meters per day to cushion the county from ever-rising demand for water. The project, which is being implemented by the national government through Earth Works Development Agency, will see a total of 50 boreholes sunk in the larger Nakuru region, with the Naivasha's Kihoto slums, Karati de la Mea and Wave Maseno dispensary in Subukia constituency being some of the mapped areas. At the Waterworks Development Agency CEO, Engineer Michael Thuita, said the project is currently at 55% and once complete will go a long way in improving the general well-being of Nakuru residents, especially with the county soon becoming a city. Now, consumers likely to start witnessing low power bills as Kenya Power shifts focus on enhancing the accuracy of its billing system. Kenya Power chairperson Vivian Yeda says the utility firm is leveraging technology to improve meter reading and revenue protection. This emerged during an investor briefing where Energy Cabinet Secretary Ambassador Monica Juma reiterated that the government is pushing ahead with reforms in the energy sector since it will define Kenya's prosperity agenda. This is Newswire. I'm Dennis Aseto.
.5 Spice FM, Kisumu.
It's about that time when the traffic issues are serious. So, getting towards town from Murang'a Road, you approach the Kipande Road junction and then you get into the Globe Cinema roundabout. That is very busy this morning, so see if you can use an alternative route. If you're coming from Thika Road, get into Wangari Maathai Road, go to Museum Hill. You'll only find traffic near KBC as you approach the University roundabout. After that, Uhuru Highway is very busy on both sides as you get into town. All roads heading into town are busy. What were the problem areas earlier? Langata Road, it's a problem area this week And it's a problem because of the construction, you understand, that's going on at the T Mall, where they're creating a new interchange there into Mbagathi Way. Now it's called Raila Odinga Way. So there's an issue there. Aerodrome Road heading towards Bunyala is also very busy this morning. In Uhuru Highway from Nyayo Stadium into South B, it's also very busy. Jogoo Road has been busy at the area of Makadara because of the bumps leading to a school, and then you get to Church Army. It clears after that going into the City Stadium roundabout, and Landis Road now starts getting busy. There's been an issue on Eastern Bypass and Outer Ring Road and then North Airport Road. Yes, Outer Ring Road at Feather Estate is busy on both sides. Eastern Bypass was very busy earlier near Mihango, but it's starting to get better. If you have anything that you see we ought to alert people about, SpiceFM KE on Twitter.
This is the Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Okoh, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latiff, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down. This is the Situation Room. The only way to start your day.
This is Kenya's biggest conversation, the Situation Room on SpiceFM, broadcasting on KTN Home as well for the next 1 hour. And we are also live streaming the show on SpiceFM KE on Facebook. We live stream the show on Twitter, and we are also live on YouTube. This is Kenya's biggest conversation, and CT Muga always begins the hour with the day's proverb.
Yes, this is a Swahili proverb. Jifunze kukaa kimya, mtulivu, kisha zingatia. Sababu sio kila kitu kinahitaji majibu.
Jifunze kukaa kimya,
mtulivu, yes,
kisha zingatia.
Yes. Sababu sio kila kitu kinahitaji majibu.
This one sounds like one of those things that you come up with, City. It's not a proverb, really.
You know, the range of what falls under the broad category of proverbs, it ranges from just saying something that sounds like common sense to something cryptic, to something profound, to something simple and basic. But they are all sayings and they are all proverbs, meaning it is something that should point you in the direction of a prudent path to take. That's really all. Yes. Sometimes it tells you whatever it is in a straightforward manner, simple and easy to understand. Sometimes it is cryptic. Sometimes it paints a lovely picture and gives you all sorts of ideas and colors as to what it is. But the purpose and the intention are the same.
Yeah, all the same.
It's the same. So if this one sounds like it's the beginning of a long story, Hapo Zamani za Kale, it isn't Hapo Zamani za Kale.
It is, eh? It is something else.
Hapa kwa sasa hivi. Yes.
Yanayojiri.
Yes.
Okay. Let's talk about climate change, because climate change is something that yanayojiri. It's happening now as we speak. And we, of course, know that there was the Glasgow meeting of the COP26, where world leaders and, private sector, civil society groups gathered to look at the progress that's been made with regards to climate talks. They ended up with some hammered out deal, and civil society organizations, some of them are saying they're happy, others are saying they're not happy. But then the impact is what we want to discuss today. The impact of of climate, the climate crisis on Kenya and on Kenyan counties. Somebody who was there in Glasgow attending the COP26 talks, and who is also a very, very well-renowned expert on these matters, is the governor of Vihiga County, His Excellency Dr. Wilberforce Otichilo Hasilwa, the current governor of Vihiga. He joins us on the line. Good morning, Governor.
Good morning.
It's good to have you on the show. Thank you very much for joining us. Welcome to the Situation Room.
Thank you for offering me this opportunity to be able to talk on the issue.
We'll be talking about this with a view that the Council of Governors is organizing the devolution conference next week in Makueni, and the theme this year is also centered around the issues of climate impact and climate change. But let's just begin by just getting to understand Governor Otichilo, for many people who don't know him. Governor Otichilo is somebody who has studied these matters at a great extent. He has a doctorate in natural resource management and space science. Governor, what is a doctorate in natural resource management and space science? What's that all about?
Well, that's all about understanding how our mother nature planet operates, the systems that make the planet habitable. And the space science is about studying on how the Earth functions from outer space. Because if you want to understand how the planet Earth operates, you must be out of the planet. Therefore, you must be outside. And that's why you have space science, looking at the universe, looking at the planet Earth from outside the planet itself.
Okay. You know, it's interesting when you say this. It's when one talks about understanding the earth, from a simple layman's terms, I would assume if I live on the earth, I understand it.
So you wouldn't be able to understand it because you would not see how the whole picture of how the planet is the structure and how it functions. You must be out of it.
I think that's the beauty of then having someone like you who's an expert. Because this thing that we consider to be common and which we consider to be obvious is then broken down so that we understand it in its entirety. You understand its complex nature, you understand how you relate to it, you understand how others have related to it, and you understand the direction in which it is going. I agree completely. It's just that ignorance is what sometimes leads one to make quick assumptions about things you know very little about. And I am one of those people who had made a quick assumption about a subject matter that I actually know next to nothing about. And I am glad that we have you in the studio to open up this discussion and also help our audience and some of the people who are as ignorant as I to actually understand what this thing is really all about.
I'm happy and I'm here.
Yes.
For example, let me tell you, when we were in school, we were told the sky is the limit.
Yes.
I tell you this. So that's where your eyes can see, but there's no sky.
This is going to be an interesting conversation. The sky is the limit, but you know what? There's no sky. So basically, there's no limit, right? There's no limit, basically, to anything that you are doing and what you're talking about. We have with us in the studio, I mean, not in the studio, but joining us via video call, Governor Wilbur Otichilo from Vihiga County, talking about climate and climate change and the impact of climate change on us as a people. So, Siti, what do you suppose? Just the way you call yourself a layman.
And I'm a layman. And
so, from your side,
yes,
what are these impacts of climate change on you as a person?
You see, what I found puzzling, I realized that I was ignorant and I decided to read a little bit about it. And why it concerned me is because of where I come from. I come from a place called the Kano Plains. And one of the things that is common about those plains is that they get flooded literally every single year. They're not the only place that get flooded. Budalangi also have their fair share. But then there's something that I was later to learn was called a backflow. Okay? Where it isn't just a question of flooding, my friend. It is super flooding. So that water just moves from where it was right inland to the point where it is water, as I say, when they say water everywhere, it's literally water everywhere. But my mind went back to a time when I was still a student at the university and I'd gone visiting Naivasha, and I was very surprised to find that one of the places we visited had houses that seemed to have submerged in the water. I don't know how strange it seems, but you're looking at a house and you can see the roof. And you're wondering, why is this submerged? Now, the owner of that particular property took the time to explain to us how the lake had moved. Now, up to that point, I didn't know that the lake could move. And it was a very strange thing, and yet it was a reality. So, with time, when you start seeing things that defy what you can actually see with your very eyes, and you seek an explanation, and then later on, someone explains to you that this is something that is being caused by what you call climate change, you then have to take a greater interest. Then you hear that, oh, ice caps are melting.
Yes.
Oh, then you hear water levels around the world are increasing. Then you hear, oh, it's getting hotter. Some even tell you the sun is moving closer. So you wonder, is the earth moving closer to the sun, or is the sun moving closer to... All these questions now become a matter of concern. Now, these issues that we're told were occurrences once every, God knows, 50 years, 48 years, 70 years, when the frequency becomes more, as a layman, it now becomes alarming. And then that is when I have to ask those who understand it better.
The experts.
Please explain what is actually happening.
Governor.
Thank you very much for that question. First, I want to note that, under normal circumstances of the planet, the climate will change, but the variability, the changes are insignificant. They are not all that big enough to be seen. But since the start of the Industrial Revolution, that is early in the 70s, in the 1700s onwards, we had this Industrial Revolution where we had the discovery of the coal, the discovery of oil, fuel, and then we started the invention of the train and all this. So we started emitting so much carbon dioxide and carbon monoxide into the atmosphere. And as that carbon dioxide has been building up, then as the carbon gets into the atmosphere, it forms a layer, and that's what is called a greenhouse. I'm sure you know you have seen a greenhouse, a normal greenhouse here where people plant.
Yes.
In this greenhouse, the purpose is once you put the temperatures, once you enter into the greenhouse, you feel it's very hot.
Yep.
Isn't that the case?
It is the case.
Yeah, because you see, as the heat from the sun gets into the greenhouse, it is retained there, and the tablet that forms the greenhouse makes it harder for the heat to go back. And that's what has happened over years. As the carbon dioxide has gone into the atmosphere, it is formed a layer, and this layer has become now impervious, whereby as sun rays go through it to the planet, to the Earth's surface, when it's reflected back, it does not go through to go into the atmosphere. And that's why the Earth has started warming up, and is continuing to warm up, because as human beings, we have continued to emit more carbon dioxide. And particularly when the population of human beings on the planet started increasing, we started occupying more areas, we started clearing our forests, our riverine areas, and therefore, as we cleared, most of the carbon is stored in plants. If you remember the process of photosynthesis, how photosynthesis is done, in carbon dioxide is the main ingredient of photosynthesis. So most of the carbon dioxide, the trees absorb carbon dioxide as part of the photosynthesis to form the carbon. So all these trees you see around here is all carbon dioxide stored in them. So they are known as the best carbon sinks. They store carbon dioxide. Now you see what we human beings have done. We have cut most of the forests, and as we have cut all the forests and we burn them, most of our people, when we go to cut the forest, you go with a panga and an axe and a matchbox. So after you cut, afterwards you put on fire, and when you burn, then the carbon dioxide goes in the atmosphere, and as it goes in the atmosphere, it accumulates and forms that greenhouse layer, which makes it difficult for the heat from the sun to go back to the atmosphere. And that's why the earth is warming up. And unless we stop deforestation, then we are putting more carbon dioxide in the atmosphere. Unless we stop, now you see the vehicles have increased and they all are producing carbon dioxide. Industries are producing carbon dioxide in the manufacture of various products. All this carbon dioxide is going in the atmosphere. And that's why the world is warming up very fast. And as the warming up of the planet has many consequences. When the temperatures increase, first of all, it destabilizes what is called hydrological process, the process on how the systems of the planet work in terms of evaporation. I remember you learned in school that when the sun comes up, there is evaporation. Water evaporates from the ground, goes in the atmosphere, and then it condenses, and then it comes back as rain.
Yes,
I'm sure that's what we are taught in primary school.
Yes.
So now all those processes are destabilized because of the temperatures, and that's now what is making life on the planet very different. You learned about winds blowing from low pressure to a high pressure level. Now, when the temperatures change, the pressures on the globe change, and therefore the climate now change. The winds will change; they don't flow in the same direction at the same time. So it disorganizes the normal functioning of the planet the way God has structured it to perform.
Governor, I've got to ask the question then at this point. Is the impact of the greenhouse gas emission universal around the globe, or are there some parts of the world that are...
No, it is universal. You see, what you are seeing now, what we see, that's why I told you to understand what goes on in the planet, you must be out of the planet. And that's why, you see the planet, you see where you are, you don't know that since morning you have gone thousands of kilometers. The earth has been going very fast, and therefore the earth is a body which is on its own and is rotating around the sun. So it is in constant motion, and therefore climate change affects the entire globe.
Uniformly?
Not uniformly. In the equator, it affects more because at the equator, we are more exposed to sunlight than the people in the Arctic and in the polar areas. So that's why climate change has a major impact on countries in the tropics, particularly Africa. That's why its impact is felt very, very significant.
And that is a good point, because we'll take a break at this point. When we come back now, we begin from the impact of climate change on the African continent, on countries around Africa, and especially for us as Kenya. And then we look at what the discussions were, what our Kenyan delegation was going seeking in Glasgow, what you achieved from Glasgow, and what we then need to see in coming years. Having a conversation on climate change with the governor of Vihiga County, Dr. Wilbur Otichila. He's an expert on these matters of space matters and understanding climate and climate change. So the Devolution Council is organizing the Devolution Conference. This is a Council of Governors is organizing the Devolution Conference that's taking place in Makueni next week. And this is part of the conversations that we want to have and we'll be having in the whole week of next week. This is Kenya's biggest conversation, the Situation Room on SpiceFM, KTN Home, and online 25 minutes after 8. Time for a break. We'll be back shortly.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day. Spice up your life. 24/7 around the world, non-stop. This is SpiceFM.
Follow your dreams to the land of the rising sun with a host of academic opportunities to pursue your undergraduate and postgraduate studies in Japan's leading universities. Visit www.studyinjapan-africa.com to find out how you can enroll to the program.
Forgiveness is always conditional.
even before God. There's nothing like unconditional forgiveness.
Government doesn't pay you pension until you retire. In fact, they have no money for you. The day you retire, they look for it.
This country is punishing many young people. These young people are more susceptible to be deceived, to be taken advantage of, and they're more susceptible to be bought off.
Let us also talk about where we want our country to go. You know, we are a population of very young people.
We're in a state of capture. The judiciary is under duress. Parliament is in the pocket of the executive. You don't sit and wait for the regime to topple itself. It will never do so.
By the way, let me tell you, these guys are so persuasive. I'm telling you, they can persuade you to sell your grandmother. I'm telling you, they can sell sand in the desert.
See, has anybody on this program said to you as a guest, saying, "Oh, shut up, we don't want to be told what to do"? Has you ever that kind of... Has anybody been
Listen, I will not listen.
Bit of advice. Because you're working on the premise that we should all pay heed to these proverbs. It's a very suspect notion.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day. The weather with SpiceFM.
Okay, so let's take a look at the weather around the country. In Nairobi, it's going to be a mostly cloudy day at 26. In the areas of Western Kenya, where our guest Dr. Wilbur Otichilo is, today is going to be a sunny day at 31 degrees. Eldoret, partly sunny day at 25. Nakuru, mostly sunny day at 28. Nyeri, cloudy day at 25. Malindi, sunny day at 32. Kisumu, sunny day at 30. Mombasa, light rains at 32. Around the region, in Dar es Salaam, sunny day at 31. Kampala, Uganda, sunny day at 29. The DRC, Kinshasa, light rains at 30. Johannesburg, South Africa, sunny day at 30. And Nigeria, Lagos, mostly clear skies today at 32. There's a frost advisory for New York City today. It's going to be clear skies at 14 when the sun rises, and then it'll drop to 6. London, cloudy day at 12. Paris, cloudy day at 13. And there's haze over Beijing in China, and the temperature is currently at 11. It'll drop to 1 degree later today. All right, so what's happening on the roads at 28 minutes after 8 a.m.? What's happening is what was happening about half an hour earlier, but Mombasa Road is getting thicker and thicker because the traffic now begins from around South Sea next to the CID training school. It gets very busy as you approach Nyayo Stadium roundabout. It's very busy as also you go to Bunyala Road roundabout. Erondrom Road is also very busy. Langata Road, quite heavy. Southern Bypass heading towards Mombasa Road is busy. I'm assuming what I'm looking at here, I'm thinking it's because of the expressway contractor maybe moving those heavy things that they move on the road towards the expressway itself. Now, Outer Ring Road, there's something happening at Feather Estate this morning. It's also very, very, very busy. Jogoo Road, as usual, busy around Makadara. Kiambu Road, as usual, busy around Muthui. And Thika Road as well, busy as you approach Muthui. But this morning, unlike yesterday, Wangari Maathai Road is very good. Kipande Road and into the Globe Cinema roundabout and Muranga Road is also very, very busy. Now, we're not seeing anything that is being talked about on social media with regards to any problems on the road. So just be patient. If you can get an alternative route, use that and arrive alive. Good morning.
SpiceFM, Nyeri. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done done right.
Well, the conversation continues.
94.4.
Line is the governor of Vihiga County, Wilberforce Otichilo. He is with us, joining us from Vihiga via video call this morning. We are talking about climate change and what's happening. He was in Glasgow attending the COP26 talks. Just before we went to the break, Governor, you were telling us, yes, the impact of climate change is being felt mostly around the equator. We are on the equator. So obviously what we are seeing in the country is causing a lot of change being caused by climate change. Now, the question on many people's lips is, when our delegations went to Glasgow, for example, what is it that we hoped to achieve, and did we achieve what we hoped to achieve?
Thank you for that question. Yes, as a country, we had a very strong delegation to Glasgow. The delegation was headed by His Excellency the President, who was with us. After 2 days, he left, and the delegation was led by the cabinet secretary in charge of environment and natural resources. We had also a number of PSS and the cabinet secretaries who attended. Our purpose of going to Glasgow was to put our case that climate change is real, having a major impact on our country, as in many other countries. And as I said earlier, the climate change is affecting the entire planet. So as a global community, we went there to see how best we deal with this pandemic, because it's a pandemic that we cannot say one country can deal with it. Whether you are developed or not developed, we are all in it, and the consequences are affecting us, despite of whether you contributed to the warming of the continuing warming of the earth or not. As we already know, most of the warming has been caused by the developed countries, the Western countries, the Americas, the Europe, and currently now China is one of the biggest countries that emits a lot of carbon dioxide. So we wanted to come together and see how best we can deal with this pandemic. And the main area of our interest is, how do we raise resources to be able to contain or stop further emissions, what is normally known as mitigation. How do we deal with the issue of emissions so that we minimize the more carbon dioxide going into the atmosphere? But more importantly, climate change is here with that. And even if we do everything possible to minimize the emission of carbon dioxide, the temperatures are going to remain for quite a long time. So how do we adapt? How do you adapt to climate? It's like things have changed. So you must learn on how to live with the new environment. So climate change has actually brought a new environment to us. So how do we adapt to live with it? So that's what we went to discuss with the other countries of the planet. And I can say that we had a long discussion. There were agreements in certain areas, and there were also not agreements in certain areas. But overall, the spirit was that it is important that as the world community, we must deal with this pandemic, and all of us are in it, and we must find a solution. So that one was a common consensus, and all heads of the countries that came to give their speeches, they all acknowledged that climate change is a pandemic, and if we do not address it, it has major consequences that are likely even to destroy this planet. You know, we have always been told when we go to church that there will be fire, which is going to destroy people. Yeah, but now we are seeing the fire actually is already on the planet. It's not in hell already. The fire is already on the planet. So probably what we were being told in the Bible is already coming to happen.
So it's a prophecy coming to pass.
Yeah, it's coming to pass.
But
so,
Governor,
what we are there, we want to make sure, how do we stop this fire? Because if it comes hot, it is going to burn the planet, and once the planet is burnt, then there will be no life.
Governor, the spirit
other,
aside, Governor, everybody went there. There was a spirit, there was consensus that yes, this is happening and we need to do something. And everybody, we have seen all the other COPs, people make commitments. And among the things that was being raised even in this particular commitment in conference is previous commitments have not been realized, and we are here to make more commitments. As a country, we are bearing the brunt of climate change without having contributed significantly to climate change. Now, from what we see happening in all the conversations is that we also need to do something to stop the rapid increase of global warming. But those that are doing it are just making commitments on lip service, and we are bearing the brunt. Did we come home with anything that's going to help us adapt, like you said, to the impact of climate change?
Yes, I can say we came home with at least knowledge. And knowledge is very important. People suffer because of lack of knowledge. Our interaction with the global community in Glasgow for 2 weeks, we were able to get exposed to various information and knowledge of what is going on. We were able to learn from various countries who are trying to fight this pandemic, what best practices they are doing to be able to deal with this pandemic. So I can say, overall, we came back with more knowledge, with better practices that we can now implement ourselves.
What are those practices?
The better practices, for example, we have countries which have now decided that the best way to go to deal with this climate change is to minimize carbon dioxide emissions. And they have now moved away. They are moving away from fossil energy, using coal and petroleum products as petroleum as the main energy. And people now are going to solar energy, or they are going to hydro. So now most countries are moving very fast from fossil energy to renewable energy. Luckily enough, Kenya, we have done extremely well. In fact, Kenya is one of the countries who have done extremely well in renewable energy. In fact, when you look at our energy mix in this country, more than 90% of our energy mix is actually from renewable energy. Geothermal, we have hydro, and now we are moving very fast in solar. So I can say we have learned quite a lot as part of those practices. We have now countries which are doing smart agriculture, which is now being practiced to deal with the changing climate, the changing weather. How now we go into what they are calling conservation agriculture, where you don't have not to till the land, but you can still plant crops without tilling the land. So there are many practices we were able to see. But finally, I can say that as a country, we came out very strong in terms of adaptation, how we would want to get adapted to the changing climate. And before we went to Glasgow, we had engaged ourselves with the World Bank. The last, before we went to Glasgow, we were in Madrid in 2019. And in Madrid, we engaged the World Bank so that we come up with a funding that will help us do activities on adaptation. And I'm happy that during Glasgow meeting, we were able to finalize our project agreement with the World Bank, and they have now committed to give Kenya $150 million to start with, to go into climate change adaptation programs, which will be focused at the county level, and not only at the county level, it will be moved to the world level. So we already have now a commitment of over $150 million, which is going to come to this country. Actually, even if we saw yesterday in the papers, advertisements of the people, especially who will be running this project, were already put in the papers yesterday.
How soon will the money arrive, and for how long?
Actually, the money will be arriving any time by early next month. We will start by receiving about $100,000 for every county. We are 47, and this $100,000 will be for preparation. We have to prepare. We have to form committees at the ward level, and then we have capacity building. Then after that is done, at the ward level, each of the ward will be coming up with the projects that are relevant to their own ward in terms of how to adapt to climate change and how to mitigate climate change at the world level. And the programs that they are likely to be funding will be programs like dealing with the conservation of water, because climate change is causing a lot of scarcity in water, harvesting of water from roofs and so on, the issue of having organic farming or smart agriculture, the issue of afforestation or reclaiming the areas that have been deforested. So the counties will be able to do those, and we believe that is going to be the best way to take climate change to the grassroots, to the community, where the impact is being felt.
City, do you think $150 million and the programs that the governor is talking about are going to be impactful?
They can, but what is $100,000 dollars?
150 million.
Yes, million, yes, but you
No,
broke it.
let's put it clear. The whole amount is $150 million dollars. If you change in the Kenya shillings, it's about 16 billion.
Yes.
And then this money will be available for about 3 to 4 years. But to start the program, the counties must have a preparation.
Yep.
So this money, the $100,000, which is actually 10 million, to be a rough estimate, is 10 million per county, is to be used now to build capacity of our people at the local level. We'll form what we call ward climate change planning committees at the ward level. Then we'll also have county climate change committees at the county level. So once these committees are formed, there will be capacity building. They will have to be taken into what is climate change, how is it affecting their own areas, their own localities. Then after that, they will then go through the process. How do they select projects of their own interest at their own locality, which then will be funded? Once they come up with a project proposal, then the project proposal will be taken now to that national coordinating committee, which will be domiciled in the treasury, who will then be releasing money according to the projects each of the county will have submitted. And then there the monitoring and evaluation.
Governor, there are those that have argued that 16 billion shillings over 4 years being given to people who are being impacted by climate change on a daily basis. We have severe flooding. We have the kind of droughts that we are facing. All these things are severe. Being given this amount by countries that are continuing to do the practices that we're practicing and just reducing by small percentages their own practices. While we accept the 16 billion shillings, for example, we are also committing that we shall not, for example, start a coal power plant in Lamu. We are committing that we shall not look at other sources of energy. We shall just continue looking at our drying rivers as our sources of energy and our solar and wind, which you don't have the technology, as our sources of energy. Don't you think this is just being given a small pittance by somebody who is causing you problems and telling you, use that 16 billion shillings to survive, yet their economies, 16 billion shillings they generate in a day?
Yes, that has been one of the most difficult issue in all these COP conferences that I've attended. The developed countries who have caused this problem of climate change have been adamant. They have said that they want to support the developing countries. But when it comes to releasing the money, for example, in 2019, in 2009, when we were in Copenhagen, the developed countries committed that they will be releasing $100 billion every year to countries that are most affected so that they can be able to adapt to the changing climate. But they have not released. So yes, the developed countries have not been sincere and honest in the commitment, but the issue here is that the climate change is continuing and is impacting most on us, the developing countries. So we cannot just not sit and say, okay, we are waiting for the people who caused us the problem. We have to find a solution. And that's why we as counties, through the Council of Governors, we have agreed that we have to come up with a climate change legislation and the policy, so that within our own budgeting process, we allocate money for climate change, so that the climate change becomes part and parcel of our programs. Because climate change is a cut-crossing issue. It cuts across all the sectors of our economy. And therefore, we have felt that we must put climate change as part and parcel of our budgeting process, so that we can generate our own money and be able to put in the system, so that we solve the problems as we await any other bilateral or multilateral donors or partners who can come and help us.
Governor, there are those who've argued that if you look at the traditional way in which, for instance, we farmed, the traditional ways in which we went about the business of living with the environment in which we find ourselves, that it was the most eco-friendly way of going about the business of simply living on this planet. But with modernization, we've changed. Now,
correct.
You're in agreement.
I'm in agreement. I'm 100% in agreement.
Yes. Now, when it comes to when you're talking about some of the changes that we can bring about, like organic farming, again, if you look at our traditional ways of farming, it was organic. That's what we did. So we moved away from what we did, which essentially is what we are now being told to move back to in many, many ways. Now, let me ask the question. You've clearly stated that many counties don't have a legal framework from within which they can implement some of the things that you require. But let me ask, when we talk about training, sensitizing, teaching, getting our people to understand what needs to be done,
yes,
even if we don't have external sources, what is it that hinders us from actually ensuring that, for instance, one, our people have food security, that they are able to be secure in food production, so that somebody can actually feed themselves? Because if you can feed yourself, then these are the issues we keep talking about become easier to discuss, because at least you're guaranteed a meal. But if even that isn't guaranteed, every other discussion now becomes esoteric. Now, we accept that the climate change that we are experiencing has more or less been brought upon us because other people have interfered with the ecosystem of this planet, and we are bearing the brunt of it. Again, but I'm asking the question, with the resources that we have, are we saying we cannot come up with technology and ways in which we can mitigate and ensure that we are able to survive even as we think or wait for these external sources?
I agree with you in total, because we have the capacity to be able to mitigate some of these changes that are brought about by climate change. What is important is that we have not put a lot of emphasis on our agriculture or food production. We have the right policies, we have the legislation, but when it comes to implementation, we have not implemented them. And that's why we see that we still are not producing enough food for ourselves. And where we produce enough, we don't have distribution mechanisms, so that where we have excess production of food, this food can be taken to areas where there is less production. For example, in the western region, we produce a lot of maize and but in the northeastern, people are suffering now.
Yep.
But in this area, we have quite a lot of excess food. So I agree with you that it is our planning mechanism that has failed. And over years, very little emphasis has been given on agriculture. We talk so much about agriculture. We talk about agribusiness and so on, but actually we are not implementing what actually we are talking about. So yes, the challenge is with us, and despite of the climate change, and despite of this issue of wanting to be supported, we can do most of these things ourselves, and the government partners can only complement for us to move forward.
Mheshimiwa, as a member of parliament, one of the things I heard about you was that you're one of those few politicians who did not give handouts.
I still don't give a handout even now.
I say this because I've said it in this on this station many times, and I've mentioned your name, not having met you, because I thought that was one of the most wonderful things I'd ever heard, for a simple reason. When you take people's minds away from something that they have become accustomed to, and which in essence is retrogressive, you then enable their minds to be able to accommodate changes that would help them. But this now is my question. How willing and receptive are people to change? You've been in leadership at the level of a member of parliament and now as a governor. And there's always this talk about implementation of things, but I want to ask the question, are people receptive enough to the changes that are introduced in order to change their lives?
People could be willing and receptive to change, but it depends on the leadership. If the leadership and the leadership is not focused and drive or direct the people to do what is the right thing to do, then you find that as much as the people are willing to change and the leadership is not willing to drive or take people in the right direction, then people will follow the leaders on what they are doing. And I think that's why in my own opinion, I feel that our leadership has no real focus on the issues. We have tended to only to deal with the issues that are of no consequence. But the issues that have impact to our lives, we tend to treat them very lightly.
Give examples of some of these issues, the dichotomy that exists within it. For instance, what do you think would be an issue that would actually impact the lives of people, and which...
What should be our focus now, and it's not?
You see, the first focus now is that first is production of food. You know, people must have food. So if you can't feed yourself, and even our ancestors, our forefathers and so on, their focus was in food. If you look in the normal animal kingdom, any animal, once it wakes up in the morning, the only thing they are looking for is food first. There's nothing else. It's food. Even when your chicken comes out of the house in the morning, the first thing they are looking for is food. So as a country, the first thing we must focus on is production of food so that we are self-reliant. And to be able to do that, we have to put more finance and more capacity in agriculture. But if you look at the budgets we come out with every year, those budgets don't put emphasis on agriculture. More money is put on security and other areas where you find that there is no production. Money is not put in a production system. It is put in consumption. So we have ended up being more of a country that is consuming but not producing.
Do these conversations happen when you meet with your colleagues at the Council of Governors? For example, as you're preparing for next week's devolution conference, are these conversations the focus of governors as they seek re-election, as they exit from office? Has it trickled down to that level?
That's where we are striving to be, so that we can focus on agriculture. And I think one of the biggest problems as Council of Governors we have been tackling with is having more resources coming to the ground, to the county. For example, agriculture, which is the mainstay of our economy, of our people, more money is retained in the Ministry of Agriculture in Nairobi. And it's not brought down. So you find that most of the money that is retained in Nairobi in agriculture is only used for conferences and meetings and writing policy papers, which people keep on repeating. When I read our policy papers on West, be it in agriculture, industry, and so on, these are the same papers that were written in early 70s and 80s. People are just regurgitating and recycling the same.
But in terms of implementation, if you look at the amount of money that is allocated by governors to agriculture, can we say that there is focus on food production?
The money that comes down is not adequate enough to allocate a significant amount of money to agriculture so that we can focus on agriculture as a business. You see, unless we make agriculture as a business, we can never get the youth down. And that's now why you find most youth will never want to be on the ground to do agriculture, because the type of agriculture we are doing is actually subsistence agriculture. It's agriculture just growing what you want to eat. But we need to make agriculture as a business. And therefore, we must be able to introduce new technologies on how to practice agriculture as a business. And this is where we need more resources. But these resources, as I'm talking now, most of them are held at the national level. You imagine we only get, let's say, 15% of our national budget, but 85% remains at the national level. But most of the work, most of the key areas, social areas that are of interest is agriculture and health. They are all devolved. So you find most of the money that should come down, it's held at national level. For example, health. More than 80% of the money for health is held at the national level. But all the functions of health are done at the county level, at the ward level. So that's why you find some of our health facilities don't have the right medicine, right equipment, because there's no money. But the money is held at the headquarters. So we need more. That's why some of us supported, the increase of money from the national government to the counties during when we wanted to change the constitution.
Governor, we want to invite you when you're next in Nairobi, come to the studio. Let's have these conversations, especially on what needs to be done to make sure that people are receiving the services that they deserve at the county level. And we thank you very much for joining us today. Governor Wilbur Otichilo is the governor of Vihiga County, but he's been talking to us on matters of climate and climate change and the impact of climate change on our counties. This is a focus that's going to be of the Devolution Conference that takes place next week in Makueni County. Asante sana, Governor, for joining us.
Asante sana for giving me this opportunity.
Thank you. 2 minutes to 9. Kenya's biggest conversation continues. Thank you for watching us on SpiceFM and for watching us on KTN Home and listening on SpiceFM. Conversations continue on SpiceFM next. Good morning.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day. Spice up your life. Spice FM. Malindi.
There are so many people peddling what is false and that it bears remarkable resemblance to what is true.
Politicians have their agenda, and their agenda is to use every opportunity to sell that agenda and to loot this nation.
I have seen major strides that are done in this country when we talk to each other as against talking at each other.
We start getting back into the tribal cocoons which were put to us by the colonial powers. You know, they gave us physical freedom but not mental freedom. We're still mentally colonized today into these cocoons of tribe.
Now, if you live in an area where it's difficult to find a dog,
he's a goat. I kid you not.
In which part of this country is it difficult to find a dog? So that you resort.
Afande hiyo umbo yako iko na
Spice up your life. The latest news from around the world. 94.4 Spice FM.
This is Newswire. Dennis Aseto. U.S. Secretary of State Anthony Blinken is expected to hold talks with President Uhuru Kenyatta on various security issues. Blinken is in the country for a short visit before heading to Nigeria and Senegal. The two will discuss the security situation in Ethiopia, Somalia and Sudan, while events in Uganda and the state of alert in Kenya are expected to intensify consideration that Kenya sits in the United Nations Security Council together with the United States, who is a permanent member. Blinken, accompanied by Foreign Affairs CS Rachel Omamo, will also meet with civil society organizations, visit the memorial site of the August 7, 1998 bombings, visit the Karura Forest and UNIP headquarters. President Kenyatta will be returning to the country from Ethiopia, where he held talks with Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed on the threat of insurgency. And the police has assured Kenyans that it has tightened security at the borders following a suicide bombing that killed 4 people yesterday in Kampala, Uganda. Police spokesperson Bruno Shioso said security officials had taken extra precautions and were directed to intensify the operations within and across the border in an effort to protect civilians against possible criminal and terrorist incidents. These senior police officers at Committee Prison have already recorded statements of the disappearance of 3 inmates convicted of terrorism offences. CS Fred Matiang'i assured Kenyans that the 3 will be arrested and held accountable.
I must be very frank. I'm personally very angry about what has happened here, and we are trying to get to the bottom of the matter. We have several officers from this institution in police custody right now, and we are trying to find out exactly what happened. We've gone to the place where the escape allegedly happened, and we have formed certain opinions. We don't want to discuss that because we do not want to interfere with the work that the DCI is doing.
The government has invited Islamic religious leaders and human rights activists to discuss the killing and disappearance of terrorist suspects in the country. Interior CS Dr. Fred Matiang'i, who will chair the session, said that the main purpose is to assess allegations that the government has been involved in such cases. In addition, he said that attendees will be free to express their views and arguments without fear. Expected to attend the session are representatives from the Police Service Department, the National Anti-Terrorism Centre and IPOA, the Law Society of Kenya, Justice Africa, Jamia Mosque, SUPKEM and NAMLIF. Amnesty International will also be represented. Now, activists under the United Progressive Front have filed a petition in court seeking a new order compelling the government to remove travel restrictions on Miguna. The activists also aim to get an order demanding that Air France allows lawyer Miguna to fly to the country. Miguna was expected to arrive in the country today from Berlin, Germany, but was banned from boarding the aircraft on grounds that there were red alert restrictions imposed by the Kenyan government. LSK President Nelson Havi emphasized that the government had not shown any interest in respecting court orders by continuing to harass Miguna. He says he is a Kenyan citizen.
We underscore the need for the government of the Republic of Kenya to obey court orders, to remove the red alerts and ensure that Miguna is given unrestricted entry back to his home. Air France is the second respondent in the case before the court, and Air France has continuously stated to the court that they will abide by the court order.
Now, over 100,000 households in Nakuru County are set to benefit from a national government emergency water extension program targeting densely populated and low-income areas in the area. The 500 million project targets to supply an additional 330,000 cubic meters per day to cushion the county from the ever-rising demand for water. The project, which is being implemented by the national government through the Athi Waterworks Development Agency, will see a total of 50 boreholes sunk in the larger Nakuru region, with Naivasha's Kihoto slums, Karati de la Mer and Wei Maseno dispensary in Subukia constituency being some of the mapped areas. Athi Waterworks Development Agency CEO Engineer Michael Thuita said the project is currently at 55% and once complete will go a long way in improving the general well-being of Nakuru residents, especially with the county soon becoming a city. And Kenya still lacks adequate legal mechanisms to address online sexual exploitation and abuse. A new report has revealed that while countries like Kenya have online sexual exploitation and abuse laws in place, lack of consistent legislation and internally adopted laws have made obtaining legal recourse a challenge. The report indicated that international and national laws are failing to keep pace with advancing technology, noting that measures to prevent and detect online sexual exploitation and abuse have been mostly left to digital service providers and platforms because of the different contractual, criminal and private law obligations placed on them in different countries. This is Newswire. I'm Dennis Aseto.
94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
Okay, let's talk about what's happening on the roads at 5 minutes after 9. Yep, all roads heading towards the city centre as you approach the city centre, very busy. Langata Road is still busy as you approach T-Mall. Mombasa Road, that's from Uhuru Highway, where Uhuru Highway begins, and this is at the junction of Langata Road and Lusaka Road at Nyayo Stadium. It starts getting busy there, heading towards town into Haile Selassie, University Way and Kenyatta Avenue. That section is busy both sides. Landis Road is also now very busy as you get into the Haile Selassie roundabout and Ring Road. It's also very busy. Now, Globe Cinema roundabout coming towards town, very, very busy as well. What's happening is that Thika Road is still busy and Kiambu Road is also still busy up to the Pangani interchange. After that, Wangari Maathai Road and Moranga Road are very good. Actually, use Wangari Maathai Road, get into the highway and then get into town if that is where you intend to go or wherever else you want to go. And then Jogoo Road has still been very busy, but it's not so bad at City Stadium roundabout. It's only bad at Makadara. Mombasa Road is good both ways. Anything that you need to alert everybody else, let us do so for you. SpiceFM KE is our Twitter handle and 40127 our SMS number.
This is The Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Okoh, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latiff, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down.
Okay,
this is
now
the Situation
it's 8
Room.
after 9. Before we hear today's proverb from CT, let's talk about citizen action. Citizen action bears fruit. People took to social media to complain after very many accidents occurred on Ngong Road. That section between Lenana and the junction, and how the road just goes and, it's turning corners and there's a U-turn somewhere and they've erected a huge pavement and you don't know, it's not well lit, it's dark. So people took to Twitter and the Kenya Urban Roads Authority heard them and they said, yes, we are going to do something about that section. And now they have started improving the once dangerous U-turns at Dagoretti Bridge along Ngong Road. The Kura Communication Officer John Cheboy says signage will also be part of the improvement of the entire road. Also, Kura and the NMS are not in good communication about who should erect the lights on the road. NMS says this is Kura. Kura says this is NMS. It's not clear. You need roads here. You need proper, lights here. You need proper signage and you need other work done. Now, they say that the engineers went and toured the place and they saw, actually, some work needs to be done. I ask, where were the engineers before? The person who was in charge of this road is an engineer. The person who looked at the designs that were presented by the contractor is an engineer. The person who was inspecting this work was going on is an engineer, reporting to fellow engineers up to the boss at the Kura. Where are they?
They've always been there.
Yeah.
They've always been there. What we sometimes witness being manifested doesn't appear so, but it's actually what it is how it is alternate and competing interests come into play. Are you telling me that the details of what Kura does, the details of what Kenha does, are you telling me that is something that is not understood? It has been understood from day one. So you cannot now come and bring that as a point of discussion as though it's something that has suddenly leapt at you and it's surprising you, and you are surprised as everybody else, and you're wondering, what exactly do we do with these things? No. Those duties were carved out and they were stipulated as being so a long time ago. And that is why we know who to talk to when it's an urban road, when it's a highway, we know. So why are they now trying to confuse us by trying to give the impression that they don't know who should be responsible for what?
Yeah, come on. These are jokes. I see Jammy Jam saying on Twitter, no praise should be given for avoidable mistakes that we, the taxpayers, still have to pay for. Also, Wali Ratit finished the road into and out of Karen after the bypass. Yeah, where's the contractor there? Now, Kura, of course, will be expecting praise. You see, you raised and we listened, and that's why we are
actually there is no praise due to you. You are doing your job. Just do it well, okay?
Yeah,
and
from the very beginning.
In fact, doing it well.
These remedial works that are being done now, you should pay for them, not taxpayers. Anyway, today's Proverb City.
Yes, indeed. Swahili proverb, jifunze kukaa kimya, mtulivu, kisha zingatia. Sababu sio kila kitu kinahitaji majibu.
Jifunze
kukaa kimya,
kunyamaza.
Yes. It's important. You see, sometimes people say that in order to understand something well, you need to keep your own counsel.
Yes.
Meaning you've heard it, but you want to give more time to ruminate over it, think about it, let her get into it, digest it, before you actually come out with whatever opinion you may have on the subject, or before you speak about it. Yes, but sometimes people are more quick to speak than they are quick to hear. Yes.
That's true. Quick to speak, quick to hear. Now, there are a couple of things that are also very, very important things that are happening in the country, and let's just look at them one by one, right? One of them is this whole issue of the Defence Cooperation Agreement between Kenya and the United Kingdom. Our president went and met with the British, Prime Minister, and they signed this deal. It needs to be ratified by both parliaments. The Kenya's parliament is currently discussing this at committee stage, and this is the Committee on Defence and Foreign Relations that is looking at, all right, so should we not? They summoned the Cabinet Secretary for Defence, Eugene Wamalwa, and he came and he was cautioning Parliament against plans to reject a 5-year military pact between Kenya and Britain. He was saying, I don't think it's in the best interest of our country to say that we do away with the DCA. He was appearing before the committee to discuss the case of Agnes Wanjiru, because members of Parliament have said, unless the British government bring the officers who are involved in the death of Agnes Wanjiru to answer to those questions while on Kenyan soil, we are not signing this thing. We are not approving it. The cabinet secretary is saying, okay. But then you see now, if you don't sign it now, I mean we
all right. Right now,
stand to lose.
Right now, it hasn't been signed. So what's happening?
The soldiers are still there.
Precisely. Have we asked them to leave the country?
No.
Have we said we're not going to sign it?
No.
And if we have, it's conditionally. So why don't you go about ensuring that what is being asked for is done? They're not blanketly saying we don't want to sign, we won't sign. No, they're saying no.
There's a condition,
that are pending here.
Small condition here.
Just make sure that this matter is attended to, and then we do not have a problem with the signing of it.
Yep.
Because in the absence of this agreement, the soldiers wouldn't have been here. If they hadn't been here, what we're discussing wouldn't have been discussed, because it wouldn't have happened.
Yes.
So please, let's get to the root of this. Let's find a mechanism by which, so that future, an incident like this happens, we know that they are answerable to the legal jurisdictions of this country.
You know, when I look at the reports and I see what's being quoted of our Cabinet Secretary for Defense, he appears there. Instead of saying, okay, so what we're going to do is we are going back, I shall have conversations with my Foreign Affairs counterpart, with the Attorney General and with the Interior, and say, let's jointly have this conversation with the UK government through the High Commission. and say, this is what requires to be done. If you were saying, I want to assure you that we want to do the best to make sure that we get justice for Agnes Wanjiru.
Have you heard him say
and
that?
I can understand that. They are not saying we are not going to sign because we don't like the UK.
No.
We are not going to sign because, we don't even know what these people do here. No. It's a simple issue. There's a simple matter here that has come to light in the last couple of weeks. This matter requires us to act. Eugene Omalo should be saying, I hear you and I agree. This matter requires action. And I want to assure you that, in fact, this is what we've done. I have spoken with my counterparts. We have raised this issue. Here is a copy of a letter that we have shared with the High Commission from our Foreign Affairs saying we want these people here. Or here is what our Attorney General has said based on the agreements that we have with the UK on matters of mutual legal assistance. This is what has happened. He's not reporting any of those. He's just saying, but you guys, you can't really stop that.
You know, what is also strange is that the UK themselves have repeatedly said they are willing to cooperate.
Yes.
They will do everything that is required to ensure that this matter is resolved. So, and here our own minister, if we're to believe what is being reported, being wishy-washy, what on earth does he think he's doing, and who does he think is representing with these wishy-washy statements which are being attributed to him?
Like Ndu keeps saying, you shall know them by
their utterances.
This is the attitude.
We have a Minister for Defence who is acting as an apologist for the UK government.
Who's acting like he's a Minister for Defence of the UK. Defence of the UK.
Yes. The UK themselves have told us categorically, folks, we are willing to cooperate. They even had a minister coming down here.
Yes.
Meaning they have taken this matter seriously.
They know it is serious.
And then
also they tell us. They just need a little push.
They've made the overtures. So why don't we go with those overtures and say, thank you for the overtures.
Now
bring those people here.
Act.
Yes, so that, yes.
UK's parliament is due to debate this particular agreement in the next 10 days. Okay? So it'll also be interesting to see the kind of debates that happen in the UK parliament with regards to this particular matter. There are several members of that parliament who have said, we need to see action.
They've actually spoken out. You would actually think that it was the voice of a Kenyan parliamentarian in the UK speaking.
Yeah.
No, it's not something that I'm afraid it doesn't speak well for us.
It's one of those. It's one of those that you just keep looking at it and wondering, really, if this was somebody if Agnes Wanjiru was a daughter of one of these big shots, the so-called dynasties,
would this matter be handled in the same way?
Yeah.
Eric, you recall yesterday we were discussing this matter.
Of Lord Monson.
Yes, exactly, and his son Alexander. A tragic, sad, unnecessary death.
Yeah.
Okay? Wanjiru's is the same.
Yes.
Unnecessary. Tragic death.
She left a child who's growing up without a mother. Doesn't know what happened. Another story is we've been talking about, the pressure in schools, right? And one of the issues that the head teachers have been saying is, without schools, without the sporting activities, without art, without allowing the children to go and vent by, acting out in drama, in music festivals, in sports activities, you are building on the pressure. Now, school children can now play, according to the government, after bowing to pressure from teachers, unions, parents, and other stakeholders. Schools were yesterday allowed to engage learners in internal and inter-school co-curricular activities, weeks after principals, unions, and other parents' associations asked the Ministry of Education to reinstate them. They said co-curricular activities play a major role in the reduction of learner indiscipline as it helps them to release their negative energy. They further associated the absence of the co-curricular activities to increase in the unrest in schools. The Ministry of Education yesterday said the allowed co-curriculum activities will, however, be non-contact or low-contact activities in line with the Ministry of Health protocols. In a circular to all regional, county and sub-county directors of education, Basic Education PS, Julian Joans, yesterday said the ministry is working on modalities of full resumption of activities. Now, I want to ask you, CT, have you seen the videos of Raila Odinga is in the coast?
I have.
Of the crowds?
I have.
Have you seen the videos of the Deputy President is now in Mount Kenya? He was in the areas of Nyeri yesterday. Have you seen the crowds? And we are saying that
even let's talk about Oka as well.
Even
they
Oka
also
as
have
well.
serious crowds.
Serious.
Yes.
Okay?
Yes.
And we are saying that the children, the only activity we are going to allow you to go for is the non-contact sport, is this and the other. Let the children just go back to doing their thing. That's what I say. Allow the co-curricular activities to resume. If we get to a level where we see there's a spike or something, then we shall act. But for now, look, these kids are there. They need to go for drama, for music festivals, for sports. Let them go.
You know, these co-curricular activities, many of them are out in the open.
Yes, actually.
They're not in enclosed spaces. So this excuse, what then is your excuse? Let me put it into perspective. If you allowed 4 classes out at a time to have their sports, and now you're talking about numbers, we figured it out with the classes, and there are schools that have alternate days for learning, meaning you've reduced the numbers of the students in class. That is thinking and being creative. Are you telling me you can't be creative with co-curricular activities?
In fact, the reality, City, is that all boarding schools are working as full boarding.
Yes.
This whole story of, some classes in the morning, some classes in the afternoon, that's on paper.
And it's in day schools.
Yes. And only a few day schools. A majority of our primary and secondary schools, they are going on with learning as usual. All children reporting to school in the morning. For day schools, they go back home in the evening. They are learning together in the crowded classrooms. All students in our boarding schools, those ones that have triple deckers, are sleeping on the triple deckers in crowded dormitories.
Actually, why don't we just give the full picture? And if they're traveling by public transport is congested as it used to be before COVID. So
what's this thing about saying the children should not go for sports because we're working on modalities? Don't talk about modalities. Release.
The modality discussion, Eric, I actually agree with in a sense. What I find a little disturbing is why it is a little imagination isn't being applied to a situation when it can be. Because essentially you've given a blanket statement and a blanket ruling that it can't happen. Essentially that's what you're saying. And yet it can happen. You see, what politicians are doing, all right, we will pay the price for it, and in the not too distant future. That one for sure. But when it comes to learning, the learning environment is a controlled environment.
Yes.
And you have the liberty and the permission to actually move things around so that it is possible for that learning and everything that goes with it to be done in a manner that would benefit the student. It can be done. Yes. If football was being played across the world to empty stadiums, it was being played. So why is it that children can now not be engaged in extracurricular activity or co-curricular activity? Why not?
I just still don't get it. I don't get it. It's we focus so much on theory. Okay? So we have theory that I do not want to be the one who records will show said, let this thing happen.
Yeah.
I do not want to be the one. I want to say, there was a...
I don't want to be quoted as the one.
As the one who said, it was a progression. We brought in the stakeholders. We told them, now do this. And on paper, we said, so this is how the co-curriculum activities are going to happen. In fact, when you talk about inter-schools, we only say the maximum of 3 schools attending, blah, 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 blah. The others shall go like this, like that. Those are all stories. And it makes it even more expensive and more cumbersome. Just let it be.
Right. Any other story? Because you clearly have many interesting stories that you want us to look at.
Yeah. There's this one of a Nairobi governor. Okay.
Yes.
So we have a new Nairobi governor. She was the deputy governor. And then there's a headline, a sub-headline on the front page of The Nation today that talks about budget cut signals end of Buddy's NMS. The National Treasury, according to this story, has, for the next financial year, the 2022-2023 budget, signaled the end of the road for the entity called the Nairobi Metropolitan Service by slashing the budget that goes to the Office of the President. Remember, NMS is a department in the Office of the President.
Yes.
So that department's, the Office of the President budget is being slashed down to 8.13 billion shillings from 34 billion shillings that it receives in this particular financial year. So in the next financial year, the National Treasury is saying, all right, so you'll not have NMS anymore. So there's no point of having a full budget of 34 billion shillings. Let's bring it back to just the Ministry of Interior and the Office of the President receiving 8 billion shillings. Now, we've talked about, what NMS has done in the number of functions that the governor of Nairobi, the then governor of Nairobi, signed off to the national government, and the impact, if at all, of the Nairobi Metropolitan Service. And we've talked about the way in which they've gone about their job with Lieutenant General Badi in charge and bringing in officers from the county of government working under NMS and some others coming from external. So we have some from the military, we have some like Dr. Omo Luga, who was hired and come and he was brought into the healthcare sector. And the impact of NMS. And then it brings in the conversation that took place even before the Constitution 2010 with the BBI conversation. It has been a back and forth whether Nairobi needs to have a political structure of a county or whether it needs to be governed by the national government independently. So I want to bring back that conversation. Having tested both now for about a year, having seen the work of the national government in Nairobi through the Nairobi Metropolitan Service, having seen the work of an elected county through Kidero's government and half of Sonko's government,
yes,
which is better? Do we need to have Nairobi getting its devolution back, or should we say, okay, let's hand over that devolution function to the national government and let it be a department?
It's not a debate that we are inventing. When you have the capital of a country and you have a devolved system,
yes,
which in another place they call a federal system, the debate as to what state the capital will be in, given the geographical area it's in, what state it will actually have, has always been a subject of debate. It always has been. Because there are those who argue that you want to give it a certain form of neutrality. And you want to make sure that all it does is the work it's supposed to do. And it is for that reason that many countries have proceeded to move away from what was the real capital and actually built a whole new capital. An
Fresh,
administrative
ground
center.
up.
Yes. Fresh, brand new. So it's not a commercial center. Its function primarily is an administrative center. Now, it will have supporting infrastructure and supporting activities, but that is its primary function. So is that the debate we're asking about Nairobi? Is that what Nairobi ought to be? So essentially you're saying, do we then think of building a new city, or do we just have Nairobi and carve out a certain geographical and say this is the capital, and the rest of it then forms part of what may now be the Nairobi County, as opposed to the capital of. Now, good debate, but what interest will it serve, and what are the changes that will require, and even as things stand now, what harm do we see being done by the capital being, again, Nairobi, and also it being what it is?
A county
government.
A
yes.
county government.
Yes.
Have we seen proper service delivery for Nairobi as a county?
I enjoy trick questions in the morning.
Because the thing is, those who argue with this will say, all right, so you have the seat of the national government. A lot of the projects that are being run in Nairobi is basically coming from that budget of the national government. Yep. The offices of government in Nairobi are paying the bills, and they require the services.
Yes.
But then they cannot even touch a road because the road is run by a county. They cannot touch lighting. Now we have an issue. Who is lighting this? Is it this entity or this entity? You have two governments operating within a very small confined space. Is it serving the interests of the people to have two governments operating in that small confined space? When you get out, you go to, for example, Vihiga, where Dr. Wilbur Otichilo is. Yes, there's a national government, but the national government has clear administrative just roles that it does. And then the county government is able to do the work that it's doing. In Nairobi, you have a mix. You have a mix of a county commissioner for Nairobi and a county governor for Nairobi. And then you have an interior minister for Nairobi and a devolution minister for Nairobi, in Nairobi. And you're wondering, all these things that you're all trying to do within the same confined space, is it serving the people? Is it improving service delivery? Or is it just is it leading to wastage of resources and time? It's 9:30. Let's hear from you. 0719-012-600. Nairobi, as a county, or we just retain NMS and move on? Good morning, Kenya's biggest conversation.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day. Spice up your life.
No, this wheelbarrow, how can you give people wheelbarrow? His party symbol is an umbrella. Is he distributing umbrellas in McQueen?
Have you been told if we don't lock between 10 to 4, this is what we're saving?
You try and call them, the same person who was in your house every day, because they know you are influential and you will give them votes. Call them after 1 month and see if they'll pick up their phone.
Don't tell your member of parliament that you want him to come and build a school, you want him to come and do a hospital. That is not the work of the member. Now that we have devolution in this country, these resources should go to those devolved units.
You have to have strong, independent institutions. And you have to have police who has the right to take the biggest town in the country and question, why did you do this and that, and send them to court if necessary.
Joel in Kericho, good morning.
Salama sana Eric, habari ya asubuhi.
Salama kabisa. Mbunge wako ni nani?
Anaitwa Seriousness Martin, hapa ni Ainamoi.
Seriousness Martin, Ainamoi.
Yes. Sasa ile juma namwambia yeye nini? Amalize aende. Asante sana.
That's it. The Situation. The weather with Spice FM.
The weather now is 20 degrees Celsius in Nairobi. But this temperature is going to rise to 26 later on today, and a cloudy day. Mombasa will have light rains at 32. Nyeri will have light rains at 25. Nakuru will be sunny at 28. Kisumu sunny at 30. Kakamega sunny at 31. Eldoret cloudy at 25. Dar es Salaam sunny at 31. Johannesburg sunny at 30. Kampala sunny at 29. So it's sunny in Africa. Now let's go outside of Africa, and you'll find that, for example, in Paris it's very cold today. Excuse me, at 13. London, cold and cloudy at 12. New York, cold and clear skies, but with frost looming at 14. And then you also see that in China, it's hazy. The temperatures have dropped to 12, and they'll be dropping to 1 degree at some point. But currently, the amount of haze in the air is heavy. So they've also been cautioned about that. So this is what's happening around the world.
Spice up your life.
There's an accident on Peponi Road this morning at about 8 minutes after 9 or thereabouts at 9 o'clock. So this is a truck, one of those trucks, the tippers, and there's a matatu. And then they decided who has a right of way. Both of us have right of way, so let's both use the same section of the road. So what has happened? They've blocked the road, of course. So that is what's happening in that area. Quarry Road in Machakos County, people are saying this is pathetic. Who needs to come and work on it? Let us know until they can come and work on it. Now, what else is happening in other parts of the city this morning as you head towards town? I've been telling you about the situation on this big roundabout called Globe Cinema Roundabout. It's cleared up. It's actually free-flowing now. So the entire Murang'a Road is clear. The entire Wangari Maathai Road is clear. And the only issue now is left at Pangani, from Kiambu Road into Pangani, which is also causing some gridlock on Thika Superhighway. Uhuru Highway heading into town at Haile Selassie Avenue is busy. From City Hall Way as well to Haile Selassie Avenue is also quite busy. Kenyatta Avenue getting into town, not so busy. Mombasa Road has been busy getting into town, but it's not so bad right now. Langata Road approaching T-Mall is still chaotic. Jogoo Road is not looking so bad right now.
Spice up your life. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself.
24 minutes to 10. This is the
Mornings
conversation.
done right.
0719-012-600. Join the conversation. The tenure of Lieutenant General Buddy and his Nairobi Metropolitan Services is by law coming to an end mid-next year. The signing of the pact between the county government and the national government had some time, and this is a constitutionally mandated time. So it's coming to an end sometime next year and will revert to the county government of Nairobi continuing as it was happening before. Now the question is, having tested the services of the Nairobi Metropolitan Service, having tested the services of an elected county government, which is better? Do you think we should find a way of extending the tenure of Nairobi Metropolitan Service to continue operating in Nairobi? Maybe a pact with a new governor who comes in to continue it, because constitutionally that's the only route that you can take for now. If we have to change that, we have to go into a referendum to remove Nairobi as a county government. And maybe, either way, should NMS or an entity like an NMS continue running and offering services in Nairobi? 0719-012-600. We want to hear from you. Methusela is in Nakuru. Good morning, Methusela.
Good morning. How are you today?
Very fine, thanks.
Now, to begin with, I would like to say this, that now, counties have always been corrupt. Even as Governor Otichilo talked about being given money and so on and so forth, we've seen people buying wheelbarrows for over 100,000 shillings. Now, giving a capital to the county exposes it to corruption. That means because it impacts on the whole nation, the whole nation would then be corrupt, because this is where we get our example. So let's leave it to the NMS if it has been doing a good job.
So you think NMS continues, but then in the current arrangement, we have NMS, which has only a couple of functions, and then we have the county government, which has some other functions.
I mean, laws can be changed if they don't suit us. After all, even the president said that the Constitution is a living document, and therefore even our statute below our Constitution must be a living document. If the NMS has served us better, then we can give the capital to the NMS. Yes.
And totally scrap the county.
And totally scrap the county, yes. I don't see why we should have a county in Nairobi that is not doing very well. The other counties already aren't doing that well anyway. Even, for example, as Governor Otichilo was telling us about the lavish conferences they have had, those things don't even translate towards much of the money goes to other people's pockets. For example, he talked about capacity building. Capacity building means it goes to politicians. It really doesn't go to technocrats. I mean, the whole issue is let us give the capital to the national government and let the NMS remain. But let that not translate into other counties, probably. But let's scrap altogether Nairobi as a county.
Okay. Thank you, Methuselah.
Have a nice day.
You too. 0719-012-600. Do you agree with Methuselah? He says, let's scrap Nairobi as a county and have NMS or an entity such as that run from the national government, running the affairs and providing services for the citizens of Nairobi. We have seen that happen with the NMS. In fact, you talk about it all the time here. I keep asking questions here and there, but yeah. We have seen the NMS, for example, the Lieutenant General building 21 health facilities in a span of just a year. We have seen, if he had education, maybe he'd have built more schools in this county.
We've seen water sources being put in place. I mean, what NMS has done, you cannot pretend it hasn't. However, there's something that must be said about the citizens of Nairobi. They also need representation like all other citizens in all parts of the country.
Representation at what level?
The representation at the county level, representation in parliament, and representation even at the level of governorship. Yes. You see, Nairobi is very many things. Very, very many things. One, the fact that it's the capital city of this particular country, that alone already gives it a special role. Now, remember, we prefaced this discussion earlier when I said that countries have solved this problem by actually building a whole new capital.
Creating something from
scratch. Completely from scratch. Okay? So, capital. Function different. But then there'll also be a legal requirement as to how it is you're going to structure it. So, Nairobi, given what it is, how then do you ensure it plays both roles as being the capital city of the world? There's a world.
Yes.
Yeah, the world of Kenya.
Our world.
Of our world. And at the same time, being a county. How do you separate the two and ensure that that neutrality that a capital ought to enjoy is enjoyed by Nairobi, while at the same time, the county status, which would be of great benefit to the citizens of this particular geographical area, is also maintained.
So this representation that we are talking about, yes?
Yes.
So let's say the people of Kilimani, they deserve representation.
Yes.
What will they do with it?
They'll be represented.
They can be represented at the national level.
No, it is a right.
Because the entity that is running Nairobi is a national government.
No.
Is a national government entity. So they are represented in the National Assembly. The budget that is being implemented by the whatever entity is running government, Nairobi, is actually controlled at the national level, which is checked by the
Eric,
National Assembly.
I am surprised you don't see how you'll be infringing on the rights of the people of Kilimani. What makes you think they do not need representation or they don't desire representation?
But they have representation. They have elected a member of parliament who has gone and is sitting in the National Assembly.
The rest of the country have representations at the county level. They are called MCAs. What makes you think that particular ward doesn't require MCA representation? What makes you think that? It is just a basic right. Forget whether they need. It's a right.
It's just give it to me because others are receiving it.
It is no. Everybody is receiving it, so everybody should have it. Now,
Simon in Meru, good morning.
Morning, twice.
How are you?
I'm fine.
Do you think NMS should stay on or scrap the county?
So, first of all, this one was brought about by the BBI issue.
Yeah.
That is the first reason. As Sonko was seemed to be an opposition to the government, and that's led to what you can see. Although there is one problem whereby some finances now are going to the pockets of many people, especially the county members. But I think NMS is doing the best, and it should continue.
So if it continues, should we then scrap the county?
For the county...
So we remove the county assembly and remove the requirement to have a governor?
Since now we have a governor whom we don't know how he can take Nairobi, let's continue until we see maybe the effort of the governor for now.
Okay.
But enemies should continue.
Thank you, Simon.
Thank you. And by the on the issue of environment, I think our government is somehow hypocrite. For example, if you look at the conservation of the grub forest, they are the same people going to the courts to stop the cases against the evacuation.
Which same people?
So I think, the same people, especially the MPs.
So the government is opposing its own move to evict people from forests.
Yes, because the only thing what I can see, they are only earning. There is this, for example, if you look at the summit, the people concerned are only earning, but they only speak without action.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, Simon.
Thank you.
Amani, it's been a while.
Yes, it has been, Eric.
Are you well?
Morning. Yes, I am. Thank you.
Good. Say hello to City.
Yes, I am about to say hi to him. City, good morning.
Morning, Amani.
How are you doing?
I am well, thank you.
Great. Now, just on the NMS issue.
Yes.
I think it's a matter of personality. Because you find this same scenario happening even in other counties as they are. You have these brilliant governors who do amazing things. All right? They're accountable, they bring development. So it's about the personality of that particular individual. And so probably NMS, I think, was the same category, that the Major General has a personality that delivers, that is serious. And apart from that, he also got a lot of backing, financial backing from the national government, which made all the difference. Because he was able to deliver services because funds must follow responsibility. And something that governors all over the country have been complaining about. We don't have the funds. So as much as we can say, yes, he did the job, but he had the necessary backing that allowed him to deliver.
Okay.
And we have to get away from that kind of personality leadership, strictly personality leadership, and strictly sort of politically correct leadership, because he was appointing. Therefore, he went out of his way to support him with whatever he needed to deliver.
But let me ask you, Amani, okay? So we have a constitutional county called Vihiga, for instance. It receives money through the proper structure of budgetary allocation. It has its budget. It has its own source revenue. What is hindering the governor there from doing the things the same way Lieutenant General Buddy has done?
As I've just said to you, it's a personality issue. There are certain personalities, we put them in place, even the lead me cooking. Wherever they go, they deliver. And we want to move from that kind of personality leadership, strictly personality leadership. We need to have a leadership that, regardless of personality, because of the laws in place, because of the accountability in place, you must deliver, otherwise you're out of there. Yes, that's what we need. That's what we need to move to. Because we can't have people coming in saying, oh, it's my legacy, so I'm going to put all my funds there, all my strength there, so I can leave a good legacy. It's purely a selfish agenda. It's got nothing to do with Nairobi.
Okay.
Okay.
So bottom line, what you're saying is, okay, NMS, your term comes to an end. Just go back, Lieutenant General Badi, go back to the barracks, and let's now elect another government in Nairobi. Let's have a county government.
Let's have a county government. As CT said, it's a constitutional requirement. We have a right as Nairobians to have someone who focuses on our needs as Nairobians. Okay, that's very important. And all the way down to the very lowest level of the political hierarchy. That's critical. So we cannot do away with counties because of that particular reason.
Okay.
But we must insist on accountability of our leaders. We must insist enough funds are given to counties to deliver at a high level for their people. Otherwise, we have a very skewed understanding of development. It hasn't really changed from the Nyayo period, looking at the senior period. Politically correct, I like this particular people, I'm going to give them development. No.
Let's see. Sawa. Thank you very much, Amani, and good to hear from you today.
Good to hear from you guys too. Thank you. Take care.
Thank you, Amani.
Bye.
Thomas says the failure of service delivery in Nairobi County was due to incompetent leadership. The solution is to stop electing corrupt leaders, not NMS, which is constituted contrary to the constitution and the spirit of devolution. Chris Adede says Nairobi should be scrapped as a county and let the NMS continue with the good work it's doing in the capital. What do you think? 0719-012-600. Should we revert to having a fully fledged county government of Nairobi and move away the NMS after the term of the NMS comes to an end next year, as it's supposed to? Or should we now use the experience of testing the NMS and say, actually, let's just have an entity run by the national government running the county of Nairobi? Elijah in Nairobi, good morning.
Morning, Eric. How are you?
It's been a while, Elijah.
Yeah, it's been a while. I have been engaged in kuvumilia kwa Mkenya. How are you, CP?
We are keeping well, and that journey of vumiliaring, how far has it taken you?
Part of it is, part of the word vumilia ni kulia. But we are well.
Thank you.
Good to hear from you. So should we scrap this county or should we scrap NMS?
I think I agree with the previous caller. The discussion we are having, really we should be asking ourselves, not NMS versus county, but Sonko versus Badi.
Okay.
This should be a wake-up call to our politics. Do you want someone who is a sensationalist, someone who's a showboater, but has no deliverables you can count? Or do you want someone who may not be very personable, but delivers? And if you look at DC in the US, for example, it's a unique situation where the Constitution allows for a city that's not a state.
Yep.
And it is run by Congress, so it has no senator. But you see, that was relevant to their governance structure.
But they have a mayor.
As opposed to ours here, where we are saying, watu wametusumbua sana, let us just create something else to avoid kusumbuliwa. I mean, if the capital of Kenya was Makueni, would we be having this discussion? With the efficiency that has been demonstrated there.
Or with the current governor of Makueni?
With the current governor of Makueni. And that should then make us ask ourselves, do we need sobriety in governance structures or sobriety in governance?
Okay.
Yeah.
That's a good angle to the debate, actually, which is about the quality of leaders that we are electing. Like you're calling it sobriety in. But you see, Badi was not beholden to the politics.
True.
As a governor, you are beholden to the politics. And you cannot run away from it. You cannot wake up and say, you know what, from tomorrow we are doing this and the other.
But let us look at Kivuda Kibwana. Is he a particularly inspiring politician? No, he's not.
By his words or by his deeds?
In terms of his brand of politics, the way he presents himself?
The way he presents himself,
his
the way he can rally a crowd.
No.
He can speak, but so can Badi. I mean, everyone in leadership has given a speech.
Yes.
But the issue here is, if someone presents a track record and says, this is what I'm going to do, ignore all the drama, this is what I'm going to do. And someone else jumps into a matatu and pays fare for everyone in the matatu and says, now the people from this area are mine. We as the electorate need to ask ourselves, do you want to be paid for fare one day? Or do you want security so that if you want to walk at night, you're safe?
You can walk, exactly.
Yeah. So the issue is not so much how appealing the politician is. We need to mature as an electorate.
Thank you.
Kibaki was not appealing either, at least not in my opinion. But he was a more effective president than some of the ones we've had.
Thank you, Elijah.
All right.
Good day. Thomas.
Yes. Morning, Eric.
Good morning.
And CT.
Good morning.
Now, you see, now that CT likes proverbs, let me create one of my own.
Oh, you're creating one?
Yes.
No, CT does not create his.
Thomas, he gets his from all over the country and all over the world.
So this is according to Muhenga Thomas.
Yes, now you got it. Now, he who or she who has tasted cake will find that bread has the worst possible taste ever.
Oh, yeah.
Now, what I'm trying to say basically is that Nairobi has tasted the fruits of these so-called Nairobi Metropolitan Services. And it seems that, things have happened that have not been happening for a very long time. And Nairobians have taken notice. It may not necessarily be the perfect, exemplification of service delivery, but within that short time, we've been able to see water being delivered in. We've seen boreholes all over the place. We've seen the hospitals that have been built in the informal settlements and a few roads here and there. And that over the life of Nairobi, with the exception of the 70s, 80s, I think that has not happened. Now, this brings me to your question. Should we disband the political entity that is called Nairobi County? I feel that from the perspective of governance and in terms of political power, that should continue to vest in the people of Nairobi. We should have, the MCAs and everything else, but then only to the extent that they're able to discuss and determine issues of, where resources go. But then in terms of the actual implementation,
so the executive function,
that can vest in the NMS or whichever body that we so choose.
And who chooses this? Who chooses the executives?
The executive. Oh, that stays with the entity that will be that may take over from the NMS, because so far that has worked.
You see, the one who's chosen the executive in this particular case is the head of the national government. He's the one who decided that this person is going to be the head of the NMS. Now, if we go with that, where you have the head of this executive of Nairobi being chosen by the head of the national government, and then you have a structure where you have a local government, county government, in terms of county assembly, you'll have two levels. You have two things that are just two, it's a mongrel.
Well, you see, the executive will basically be dealing with service delivery from a very hands-on perspective. But then the political decisions that will then be handled by the legislature, the legislative wing of the county government. But then in terms of basically appointment of who becomes the head of the entity that is the NMS. That can then go through, this appointment process that we see with heads of the commissions, judges, and so on and so forth.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, I hear you. Thank you very much, Thomas.
Okay, asante.
Lovely day. Coming to the end of the show, and we thank you very much for your contributions this morning. City, today's proverb.
Tujifunze kukaa kimya. Ina pluralize.
Yes.
Jifunze kukaa kimya, mtulivu, kisha zingatia, sababu sio kila kitu kinahitaji wajibu. I'm going to paraphrase it. Be quick to hear, be slow to speak, and also slow to anger.
Quick to hear, slow to speak, slow to anger, slow to act.
Slow, but quick to hear.
All right. Thank you very much for listening to the Situation Room today. Join us tomorrow. It's Thursday. It'll be Justice Thursday. We'll have a judge in the studio, plus more conversations. Have a lovely day. It's now 10 a.m.
latest news from around the world. 94.4 Spice FM.
This is Newswire. I'm Dennis Aseto. ODM leader Raila Odinga has reconciled Kwale County Women Representative Zulekha Hassan with ODM Kwale Branch Chairperson Hassan Manyoha. The two have been at loggerheads in the party's leadership, while Zulekha continues to oppose Manyoha as chairman. This has led to a major division in the branch, with Zulekha and Manyoha splitting up members as they both had supporters. Speaking after meeting with ODM members in Diani, Odinga urged the leaders to cooperate after disagreements over the leadership of the branch. Odinga has called on ODM leaders in Kwale County to drop their differences to ensure the party is stronger, especially as campaigns continue to gather momentum. Meanwhile, Odinga has continued to oppose DP William Ruto's bottom-up economic model, insisting that he will devise policies that will boost the economy for women and youth, a step that will enable them to become self-sufficient. And Joho's cousin, Mohammed Amir, has joined Deputy President William Ruto's UDA party, a vehicle he says he will use to vie for Mombasa senatorial seat in next year's general election. Amir is one of the family members that Joho has relied heavily on in his politics. For a long time now, Mombasa County has been an ODM stronghold, but in recent times, the UDA party has been strategizing to change that position. Amir's move comes a month after Ruto met with party members in the county to discuss strategies that would enable UDA to gain popularity in Mombasa. Now, West Pokot County Senator Samuel Pogesha has called on leaders of the One Kenya Alliance to remain united in their bid to win in next year's general election. He said if the Oka leaders decide to split, it will be difficult for them to win the election, hence give other candidates an opportunity to occupy the highest office in the land. He said it would be better if Oka formed a coalition with ODM leader Raila Odinga in the run-up to the next general election to form a stronger political alliance and secure the leadership of the nation. He added that Oka leaders have